Chapter 23:41. The ancestor of Spirit Slaughter's voice was stern and full of undisguised threat. Star Spill didn't panic. Instead, he smiled coldly and said, "Although I can't stop anything in this dragon palace, you don't know what it means to have a child with the talent of devouring abyss. If you really want to play with fire, just do it." The ancestor of Spirit Slaughter came to the side of the dragon pool and sat down expressionlessly. Then he suddenly said, "The talent of devouring abyss is related to the law of time, right?" Hearing this, Star Spill was obviously stunned. Before he spoke, the ancestor of Spirit Slaughter sighed with satisfaction. "Sure enough. If so, the child can't be taken away by you." At this time, Ao Huanhai and Ao Hengyu were both stunned. An innate talent was related to the law of time? This was simply against the natural order. When they looked at the golden dragon cocoon in the dragon pool again, their eyes had completely changed, especially Ao Hengyu, whose eyes became extremely fiery. The child not only had the pure bloodline of the ancestral dragon, but also a terrible talent related to the law of time. If he could control it, thinking of this, Ao Hengyu's heart trembled with excitement. Star Spill seemed to realize something, and his eyes suddenly became extremely cold and terrible. Was the enemy who broke into the dragon palace just now the little thing named Lin Sun? The ancestor of evil spirit didn't hide anything. He said, "That's right. However, that little bastard lost his life at the bottom of the sea of sin. If it wasn't for his ability to seal time, I wouldn't have expected the devouring abyss to be so heaven-defying." Star Spill's face became uncertain. Ao Huanhai and Ao Hengyu were also stunned. Of course, they also knew Lin Sun. He was the successor of Lu Boya, Zhao Jingshuan's Taoist companion, and the father of the child in Zhao Jingshuan's belly. However, they had never expected that the enemy who had wreaked havoc in the Dragon Palace world would be the young man whom they hated and despised so much. Did the little bastard come to find the child? Ao Hengyu blurted out. The ancestor of Spirit Slaughter said indifferently, "No matter what he came for, he is now a dead man. Since ancient times, no one has been able to walk out of the sea of sin." Star Spill frowned. "You know it so well? Fellow Taoist, could it be that our true dragon bloodline doesn't know who's being suppressed at 90,000 feet? Speaking of which, your Luo family has a lot to do with this." There was a hint of indignation in Patriarch Spirit's eyes. "Are you criticizing my Luo family for what we did back then?" Yen Xing's eyes also became cold as he stared at the ancestor of evil spirit. "Don't forget that if it weren't for you, your clan would have been destroyed along with that old thing who was suppressed under the sea of sin." These words were completely blunt, and it caused Ancestor Spirit Slaughter's expression to become unsightly. He was slightly unable to maintain his composure. However, Star Spill didn't seem to intend to restrain himself. He continued, "Also, how did Minluo Dragon Emperor disappear? You haven't forgotten, right?" "Enough." Ancestor Spirit Slaughter roared, his face dark. "Fellow Taoist, although you come from the Luo family, your surname isn't Luo. It's best if you don't go too far in my true dragon clan." Star Spill's eyes flickered, and he said expressionlessly, "I'm just reminding you that Lin Sun may not die in the sea of sin." Ancestor Spirit Slaughter sneered and said, "I might as well remind you that if you do what you should do, you can take away the ancestral dragon blood alive. If you meddle in other people's business, you'll lose your life." Star Spill frowned, but he didn't say anything in the end. Ao Hengyu was confused. He didn't know how Minluo Dragon Emperor disappeared and the horrible existence suppressed under the sea of sin at all. When he was about to ask Ao Huanhai, the latter shook his head and transmitted his voice to him. "These are the core secrets of our clan, and no one will know them in the future. You'd better not inquire about them." Ao Hengyu was horrified. He was the current crown prince of Dragon Clan, but he was not qualified to inquire about such ancient secret. What on earth were these secrets? It will take at least 3 years for the dragon cocoon to degenerate. I hope there won't be any twists and turns during these 3 years, Star Spill murmured to himself, as if he was worried about something. Ancestor Spirit Slaughter and Ao Huanhai looked indifferent. They were not afraid of anything on the Ancestor Dragon Mountain, except that Star Spill from the Permitha Luo family was dishonest. Ao Hengyu no longer thought about those ancient secrets that were destined to be unfathomable. He focused all his attention on the golden dragon cocoon. He adjusted all the qi in his body to sense the obscure and mysterious fluctuation coming from the golden dragon cocoon. If it was possible, he wished for nothing more than to swallow the supreme fortune that was being nurtured within it right now. After the bloody storm, the world of the Dragon Palace had returned to its previous tranquility. However, everyone knew that the true dragon bloodline had suffered a great loss after this battle. The loss of those Emperor Realm existences could be regarded as a heavy blow, enough to make the true dragon bloodline unable to recover for tens of thousands of years. Although Ancestor Spirit Slaughter had ordered to block all the news, the paper could not wrap up the fire. The reason was that in the world of Dragon Palace, the executive elders of the 9 imperial clans, who had been obeying the true dragon bloodline for countless years, had already been disloyal. Therefore, in just a few days, the 9 imperial clans had already learned about the bloody massacre that had taken place in the world of Dragon Palace. In particular, when they learned that Lin Sun, who possessed the inheritance of the 9 transformations of Calamity Dragon, had been killed by Ancestor Spirit Slaughter in the East Sea, they felt depressed and could not bear such a blow. It was not easy for them to see an opportunity to change the fate of their clans, but it was gone just like that. It was not hard to imagine how disappointed the big shots of the 9 imperial clans were. Soon, the news that the true dragon bloodline had suffered a heavy blow and suffered a great loss spread to different territories of the true dragon realm at an incredible speed through the silent propaganda of the 9 imperial clans. It caused many people to be shocked and in an uproar. When the true dragon bloodline reacted, the news had already spread all over the sky, and it was impossible to block or stop it. The bone-chilling seawater was filled with a strange power. Darkness, like a curtain, completely covered the area under the East Sea. The moment Lin Sun sank to the bottom of the sea, a strange, horrible and fierce aura rushed towards him. Lin Sun's body trembled as if he was stared at by the god of death. A sense of fatal danger surged all over his body. However, before he could react, his arm was suddenly grabbed by a big hand, and he fell into the sea. Boom! The dark water was rolling. Lin Sun was just about to struggle when a voice came into his ears. Don't struggle, and don't use your divine awareness to check. Lin Sun was stunned. What a familiar voice! It was not until a moment later that Lin Sun gradually adapted to the horrible pressure produced by the seawater. However, because he dared not use his divine awareness to check, what he saw was still darkness, like the endless night. It was not until he sank to the bottom of the sea that the big hand that grabbed his arm loosened. At the same time, Lin Sun saw a little light, which was very eye-catching in the dark bottom of the sea. The light was gentle and warm, and it sprinkled down a rain of light. Surprisingly, it was a translucent and sparkling pearl that floated there silently. When he arrived at the area covered by the bead light, Lin Sun felt relaxed, and the horrible pressure and the cold, strange and dangerous aura around him were isolated from the bead light. My little friend, we meet again. As the voice sounded, a figure appeared near the light. The thin and tall figure in a cyan robe stood casually, with a majesty like a king descending to the world. At this moment, he was looking at Lin Sun with a smile, with surprise and joy in his eyes. Lin Sun was stunned at once. Uncle, how come it's you? The cyan-robed man was Zhao Yuanji, the father of Zhao Jingxian, the emperor of Xiao Empire. It's a long story. Sit down and have a rest first, Zhao Yuanji said, and sat down casually with his legs crossed. Lin Sun nodded and sat down, but he was still in a trance. Lin Sun had just experienced a dangerous killing, but in the blink of an eye, he saw an acquaintance he hadn't seen for a long time. It was hard for Lin Sun to believe it. How could Zhao Yuanji appear at the bottom of the sea? This was undoubtedly incredible. Soon, Zhao Yuanji told Lin Sun the reason. Decades ago, he and Zhao Jingxuan's mother, Ao Xintong, also heard that the bloodline of the true dragon was going to hold the Alan Dragon's immortal gathering, so they immediately set off for the world of True Dragon. Initially, Ao Xingtong was planning to dive 90,000 zhang below the East Sea while the 10,000 Dragons' immortal gathering was taking place to rescue a terrifying existence that had been sealed here for countless years. But she accidentally heard that Zhao Jingxian, the daughter of Zhao Yuanji, had participated in the Alan Dragon's immortal gathering. This made the couple have a bad premonition. Ao Xintong, who was born in the bloodline of the true dragon, learned some inside information after a little investigation. Only then did she know that the child in Zhao Jingxuan's belly was very likely to be targeted. This made Zhao Yuanji and his wife very anxious, but there was nothing they could do, because it was impossible for them to break into the bloodline of the true dragon and rescue Zhao Jingxian. Therefore, according to Ao Xintong's plan, they resolutely entered the Sea of Sin and planned to wait for an opportunity. After knowing all this, Lin Sun realized that this was not a coincidence. Zhao Yuanji and his wife were originally here to rescue Zhao Jingxian, just like him. "Where is Auntie?" Lin Sun asked. Zhao Yuanji answered casually, "She is trying to communicate with the horrible person suppressed here. If we can get the help of that horrible person, we may not be afraid of the threat of the bloodline of the true dragon." Lin Sun couldn't help asking, "Who is that horrible person?" As early as on his way to the bloodline of the true dragon, he had heard about the Sea of Sin and the Forbidden Zone of Life. He was also very clear about the horror of the Sea of Sin. It was said that no one could walk out of it alive since ancient times. But he had never thought that there was a horrible person suppressed under the Sea of Sin. Chapter 23:42. Zhao Yuanji thought for a while and said, "Your aunt didn't say, but according to my speculation, that terrifying existence should be an ancient figure of the true dragon bloodline." Lin Sun was stunned. The true dragon bloodline? It seemed absurd. If an ancient figure of the true dragon bloodline was being suppressed under the Sea of Sin, why hadn't the powerhouses of the true dragon bloodline rescued him in the past countless years? Zhao Yuanji didn't know much about it either. He only told Lin Sun to calm down and ask Ao Xintong when he returned. Then, they talked about what had happened in the past few decades, and they couldn't help sighing with emotion. It turned out that Zhao Yuanji, his wife, and the young man with golden cicada had arrived at the chaotic galaxy on the ancient starry sky path after leaving the mulberry forest in the bloodthirsty battlefield. At that time, the young man with golden cicada, Chun Linkong, Bai Chan, and other terrifying existences of the ancient battle league were all hibernating there. Zhao Yuanji and his wife didn't leave for the true dragon world until they heard that the All Dragons' immortal gathering was about to begin. After learning about Lin Sun's experience in the past few decades, Zhao Yuanji couldn't help but be shocked, and his eyes drifted. He caused havoc in the Kunlun ruins, traversed the ancient starry sky path, raised a storm in the primordial world, killed a group of heroes in the ancient immortal forbidden area, ran amok in the dark world, and became an emperor in Nirvana. Lin Sun's words were concise and to the point, but Zhao Yuanji was overwhelmed with emotions as if he was listening to a legend. When he heard the purpose of Lin Sun's visit to the true dragon world, Zhao Yuanji's eyes became strange and complicated. He stared at Lin Sun, making Lin Sun feel uncomfortable. "Uncle, is there something wrong?" Lin Sun asked with a guilty conscience. Zhao Yuanji chuckled and pointed at Lin Sun. "I didn't expect you to get my daughter pregnant without saying a word." He seemed to be angry, gratified, and displeased at the same time. This was probably the mood of a father. It was as if he had seen his own fresh cabbage being taken away by someone else without him even realizing it. Lin Sun was embarrassed. No matter how thick-skinned he was a little embarrassed when facing his future father-in-law. All right, it's not that I don't approve of the two of you being together. On the contrary, the two of you have known each other since you were young, and you've experienced many trials and tribulations along the way. It's already extremely difficult for the two of you to be able to reach where you are today. Zhao Yuanji patted Lin Sun on the shoulder. I also believe that you will not let Jing Xian down, but Lin Sun hurriedly asked, Uncle, but what? Zhao Yuanji let out a long sigh and said, I'm only worried that as the two of you go further and further on your paths towards the Tao, the gap between the two of you will definitely grow larger and larger. At that time, will the two of you still be able to stay together? The path of the Tao was long. Some people and things in the past, along with the changes in one's cultivation, were no longer people from the same world. For example, Ning Meng, Shi Yu, and Yi Qi, his old friends, Lin Sun had rarely met them since he left the mortal world. His close friends like Old Toad, Alu, and the Big Blackbird were also missing. This was the path of the Grand Tao. The higher one's realm of cultivation was, the further one walked, and the distance between them and their old friends would grow further and further. This was exactly what Zhao Yuanji was worried about. With Lin Sun's foundation and cultivation, he was destined to go further and further on the path of the Grand Tao. At that time, would Zhao Jingxian still be able to catch up with him? It would be very difficult. There was almost no hope. Lin Sun thought for a while and said seriously, no matter what, I will not leave Jingxian alone. Otherwise, what's the use of pursuing the Grand Tao? Zhao Yuanji took a deep look at Lin Sun and said, I believe you. Lin Sun looked calm and didn't say anything, nor did he swear to guarantee anything. Deep in his heart, he never had the thought of letting Zhao Jingxian down in this life. As the two talked, Lin Sun also paid attention to communicating with Shi Big Yellow and Xia Ji in the Tower of Endless. He prepared many divine medicines and treasures for them to heal their injuries. Xia Ji was not injured, but Shi and Big Yellow were seriously injured. It was unlikely that they could recover in a short time. This made Lin Sun feel a little heavy. That terrifying young man could control the power of origin of order in the Dragon Palace. He was no different from Shi Tiandi. Under such circumstances, how could Lin Sun enter the Dragon Palace and rescue Jing Xian? Seeing Lin Sun frowning, Zhao Yuanji couldn't help asking. When he learned about Lin Sun's bloody massacre in the Dragon Palace, he also frowned. The ancestor of spirit killing you mentioned should be the 9th ancestor of our clan, Ao Jiui, also known as Spirit Killing Dragon Emperor. He is the only ancestor who is still in the clan. Suddenly, a warm and sweet-sounding voice sounded. A speck of light lit up deep within the ink-like seawater in the distance. As the light figure approached, a slender and graceful figure also appeared under the light's shadow. She was dressed in a plain, wide-sleeved light purple palace dress. Her long hair was coiled into a bun, and her neck was snow-white. Her face was dignified, quiet, and beautiful. Every move she made was noble and outstanding. That beautiful face was 70% similar to Zhao Jingshuan's. It was Ao Xintong. This should be the second time Lin Sun saw her. The first time was when he was young, when he attended the birthday banquet of Empress Ao Xintong in the forbidden city of Xiao Empire. It was also at that birthday banquet that Lu Qinyan composed the Song of Heavenly Sun. Now, after many years, they met again. However, Lin Sun was no longer a teenager, but a peerless emperor whose name resounded in the starry sky. Greetings, Auntie. Lin Sun saluted. No matter how high his cultivation was, he was destined to be a junior in front of Zhao Yuanji and Ao Xintong. We are a family. Don't stand on ceremony. Ao Xintong looked Lin Sun up and down like a mother-in-law looking at her son-in-law. After a while, she nodded with satisfaction and said, Jing Xian has a good eye, at least better than mine in those days. Zhao Yuanji coughed and said, Xintong, you can't say that. Did you take a fancy to me because you misjudged me? Ao Xintong laughed. Is there any other reason? Zhao Yuanji was about to argue, but Ao Xintong said first, let's not talk about the things between us, lest it affects your image in this child's mind. Listening to the quarrel between the couple, Lin Sun could only pretend to be confused and pretend not to hear anything. In fact, he felt a little strange in his heart. He didn't expect that a man like Zhao Yuanji would be henpecked. When Ao Xintong came, she was holding a shiny bead in her hand, which sprinkled a rain of light to dispel the darkness and coldness of this sea area. Zhao Yuanji first told her how he saved Lin Sun, and then said, Lin Sun still has a lot of doubts in his mind, and only you can solve them for him. Ao Xintong nodded and looked at Lin Sun, saying, You came at the right time. Maybe you can help me break through a dilemma. Before that, I will tell you everything you want to know as long as I know it. Lin Sun was refreshed. After thinking for a while, he put forward some of his doubts. The first question was what kind of horrible existence was suppressed under the East Sea, which was regarded as a forbidden zone for life. This was exactly what Zhao Yuanji didn't know. Ao Xintong didn't conceal it and told him the inside story. At the beginning of primitive times, the ancestors of the 4 primordial clans, namely True Dragon, White Tiger, Black Tortoise and Immortal Phoenix, moved together from the ancient path of the starry sky. After many rough explorations and searches, the lineage of the True Dragon finally came to this vast world and quickly became the master of this world as an outsider. From then on, this world was called the world of True Dragon. But later, a great disaster fell on the lineage of the True Dragon, which was related to the Luo family of the Permitha continent. Hearing this, Lin Sun couldn't help but feel nervous. He had already known that the Luo family of the Permitha continent was the clan where his mother, Luo Qingxuan, came from. The Luo family of the Permitha continent had a great ancestor, who was called the Lord of Heavens. He crossed the starry sky and fought in the starry sky. He entered the 4 worlds of the True Dragon world, White Tiger Mountain, Black Tortoise Continent and Immortal Phoenix Nest. Moreover, he defeated the ancestors of the True Dragon, White Tiger, Black Tortoise and Immortal Phoenix clans by himself and made them submit to him. Ao Xintong's voice was low and gentle. The Lord of Heavens was upright and aboveboard, and he possessed a peerless elegance. After he won, he even gave guidance to the ancestors of the 4 great clans, and all of them admired him greatly. So, they weren't forced to submit this time, and they submitted willingly. They were willing to serve the Luo family of the Permitha continent, and they established a rule that all the descendants of the 4 great clans would be loyal to the descendants of the Lord of Heavens. Even Lin Sun was moved and shocked when he heard this. Exactly how extraordinary and magnanimous must he be to be able to make the ancestors of the 4 great clans submit to him to such an extent? From then on, because of their relationship with the Lord of Heavens, the 4 great clans possessed a path and opportunity to head to the other side. Throughout the countless years, countless experts had headed to the other side and received the care and protection of the Luo family. It could be said that the 4 great clans had received great grace from the Luo family. However, at the end of the primitive times, everything changed, and a great disaster swept through. At this point, Ao Xintong looked at Lin Sun and said, Speaking of which, this matter also has something to do with your mother, Lu Boya, and your uncle. Lin Sun's heart shook. He had vaguely guessed something, but he didn't dare to confirm it. Your mother and uncle are pure-blooded descendants of the Lord of Heavens, but because of internal strife in the clan, they escaped from the Luo family a long time ago and crossed the starry sky to hide in the starry sky ancient path. Ao Xintong continued, On their way to escape, the ancestors of my clan helped them successfully get rid of their pursuers and successfully reach the other side of the starry sky. At this point, Ao Xintong's expression was complicated. At that time, among the 4 great clans, only the ancestors of the true dragon bloodline helped them, but it was also because of this that the great figures of the Permitha continent Luo family targeted our ancestors and regarded them as traitors. Chapter 23:43. The ancestor of the true dragon clan was an ancient and terrifying existence, yet the Nirvana Luo clan viewed him as a traitor. Lin Sun almost couldn't believe the truth. My clan's primogenitor served the Lord of Heavenspan for countless years, and has always treated the Permitha Luo clan with utmost respect. Never could he have imagined that, in the end, the Permitha Luo clan would slander him because they wanted to help a direct descendant of the Lord of Heavenspan. Ao Shintang's voice was filled with hatred. The Nirvana Luo clan gave our ancestor 2 choices. He could either go to the Nirvana Luo clan and capture Luo Qingxuan and the others to make up for his mistake, or he could be exterminated along with the true dragon clan. Zhao Yuanji couldn't help but gasp. The Nirvana Luo clan was too overbearing. As you can see, the true dragon clan has survived to this day, and it hasn't been exterminated. However, because our ancestor refused to capture Luo Qingxuan, he was suppressed by the Nirvana Luo clan. Ao Shintang pointed at the boundless dark sea and said, "Do you know why the East Sea is called the Sea of Sin? It's because the Nirvana Luo clan believes that the punishment our ancestor suffered was his own doing, and he deserved to be suppressed here." Lin Sun and Zhao Yuanji immediately understood, and their hearts were in turmoil. It turned out that the terrifying existence suppressed at the bottom of the sea was the ancestor of the true dragon clan. This was undoubtedly too shocking. If Ao Shintang hadn't said it herself, Lin Sun wouldn't have believed it was true. The true dragon world was the territory of the true dragon clan. Moreover, the dragon palace that their ancestors lived in was above the East Sea. Who would dare to believe that their ancestor was suppressed at the bottom of the East Sea? Why didn't anyone from the true dragon clan go to rescue him for countless years? Zhao Yuanji couldn't help but wonder. A hint of mockery appeared on Ao Shintang's face. Because they didn't dare, the primogenitor was suppressed, and her entire race was almost wiped out. She barely managed to survive, so who would dare to go behind the Permitha Luo clan's back and rescue the primogenitor from this region? She paused for a moment before she continued. To put it simply, those seniors of my clan were extremely clearly aware that if they were to rescue the first ancestor, it would definitely bring about the danger of our clan's annihilation. If they didn't rescue him, then perhaps we would be able to survive in the cracks. Zhao Yuanji let out a long sigh. I see. This matter is viewed as our clan's core secret. Moreover, it is not allowed to be divulged, nor is it allowed to be known to the younger generation, because it is too humiliating. Ao Shintang took a deep breath and said, "After all, the patriarch of our clan is being suppressed right under our noses, yet no one dares to rescue him. If word of this gets out, the true dragon bloodline will definitely be thoroughly humiliated, and we won't be able to raise our heads again. Take the current true dragon bloodline for example. It's likely that most of the clansmen do not even know that the being suppressed in the Eastern Sea is their ancestor." Ao Shintang's expression flickered indeterminately, and it carried a strand of resentment as he said, "But how could such a thing possibly be washed away by time? How could it be forgotten? 100,000 years ago, when Ming Luo Dragon Emperor, who was still the clan leader at that time, learned of this secret, he immediately took action." Lin Sun couldn't help but be stunned when he heard this, and he couldn't help but ask. That Minluo Dragon Emperor that gave the order to slaughter all the living beings of the human race in the true dragon dimension? Ao Shintang wore a mocking look. "Kid, what you've heard is nothing but a rumor. You'll understand once I'm done." Lin Sun nodded. Ao Shintang continued to narrate the past. In order to save the ancestor, Ming Luo Dragon Emperor did not make it public, because he knew very well that if he did so, he would not only completely offend the Nirvana Luo clan, but also be tolerated by the other big shots in the clan. It was extremely risky. Therefore, he decided to think of a way to save the ancestor secretly. But what disappointed him was that the Nirvana Luo clan had set up 49 Dinghai Taoist tablets in order to suppress the true dragon ancestor. Every single Tao tablet was branded with a supreme restriction, and the energy they contained was truly too terrifying. Not to mention rescuing the ancestor, even diving into the sea 90,000 feet below would cause a fatal blow. This was also the reason why the Eastern Sea was regarded as a life-forbidden zone. It was not because of the suppressed true dragon ancestor, but because of the 49 Dinghai Taoist tablets from the Nirvana Luo clan. But Ming Luo Dragon Emperor was not willing to give up, so he had a bold idea to go to the starry ancient path to seek help from Luo Qingxuan, who was also from the Nirvana Luo clan. Hard work paid off. In the Tao Battle of the Emperors in the ancient times, Ming Luo Dragon Emperor met Lu Boya, who was conferred as Formation Emperor Lu. After knowing this, Lu Boya agreed to go to the true dragon world with Ming Luo Dragon Emperor without hesitation. Hearing this, Lin Sun finally had a vague answer to the doubt that had been hidden in his heart. Master Lu had indeed been to the true dragon world. No wonder he could master the inheritance of the 9 transformations of the Calamity Dragon, and no wonder he was so familiar with the forbidden formation of the true dragon lineage, Tao Falling Heavens. But Lin Sun did not expect that the person who brought Master Lu to the true dragon lineage would be Ming Luo Dragon Emperor. But when Ming Luo Dragon Emperor brought Lu Boya back to the true dragon world, he found out that the news had been leaked. The entire True Dragon clan knew that Ming Luo Dragon Emperor was going to do something crazy regardless of the threat from the Nirvana Luo clan. Ao Shintong continued, at that time, the True Dragon clan didn't give Ming Luo Dragon Emperor a chance to explain at all. A group of old antiques attacked together, intending to imprison Ming Luo Dragon Emperor and deprive him of his position as the patriarch. After a fierce battle, in order to send Lu Boya away from the true dragon lineage alive, Ming Luo Dragon Emperor sacrificed his life to save Lu Boya's life. Although the words were simple, it still made Lin Sun's heart palpitate. At that time, Master Lu should not have stepped into the Emperor realm, but he suffered such a great disaster. If it wasn't for Ming Luo Dragon Emperor's protection, the consequences would be absolutely unimaginable. It was also at that time that I was entrusted by Ming Luo Dragon Emperor to leave the true dragon world with Lu Boya and settle down in the lower realm. For countless years, I've been thinking about returning to the true dragon bloodline and taking revenge for Ming Luo Dragon Emperor. Speaking of this, Ao Shintong showed a touch of sadness, but I didn't expect that when I returned now, I found that in the past 100,000 years, he not only died an unknown death, but also was slandered and carried countless curses. Shintong, don't be too sad. Zhao Yuanji patted Ao Shintong's shoulder gently, and then told Lin Sun, Ming Luo Dragon Emperor is your aunt's father. The rumors you heard are all false. The real decision to slaughter the human beings in this world was actually made by spirit-killing Dragon Emperor. Soon, Lin Sun understood that when Lu Boya escaped from the Dragon Palace, spirit-killing Dragon Emperor, as the 9th original ancestor of the true dragon tribe, immediately issued an order to hunt Lu Boya down in the entire true dragon world, and kill any human he met. The reason was that Lu Boya not only learned the core secret of the suppression of the true dragon ancestor, but also obtained the inheritance of the 9 changes of Calamity Dragon from Ming Luo Dragon Emperor. This was absolutely intolerable for the true dragon lineage. Therefore, under the order of spirit-killing Dragon Emperor, they slaughtered human beings all over the world, trying to use this cruel and bloody method to force Lu Boya to show up. But in the end, they gained nothing. But because of this action of hunting down Lu Boya, the human beings scattered in the true dragon world were completely wiped out. However, the true dragon lineage was unwilling to bear the infamy of slaughtering human beings, so they poured all the dirty water on Ming Luo Dragon Emperor, who had already died. In the past 100,000 years, the news of Ming Luo Dragon Emperor ordering to slaughter human beings had already been deeply engraved in the hearts of all the clans in the world. But no one knew what kind of bloody and dark past was hidden behind these rumors. After understanding this, Lin Sun couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. In order not to provoke the Permitha Luo family, the true dragon lineage would rather not rescue the true dragon ancestor than allow anyone else to do so. Even a patriarch like Ming Luo Dragon Emperor died in the hands of his own clansmen because he did this without permission. This method could be said to be extremely cruel and ruthless. From this, it could be seen how much the true dragon lineage feared the Permitha Luo family. This reminded Lin Sun that the reason why the purple-robed woman, Yen Xing, came to the true dragon lineage was that she knew she could obtain the precious blood of ancestral dragon from the true dragon lineage with her identity as a member of the Permitha Luo family, so as to restore the nameless Supreme Emperor's remnant soul. For countless years, Yuanji and I have been dormant in Xiao Empire in the mortal world, waiting to become emperors before returning to the true dragon world. Ao Xintong calmed himself down and continued, Lu Boya also feels guilty about this matter. He feels that if it wasn't for him and Luo Qingxuan, our clan's first ancestor wouldn't have suffered such a calamity, and my father, Ming Luo Dragon Emperor, wouldn't have perished. Therefore, he stayed dormant in Xiao Empire, built Green Deer School, set up the commune of spiritual tattooists, imparted Taoist scriptures to the descendants of the royal family, and planned the way of cultivation for Yuanji and me. He did everything he could to repay the kindness of me and my father. In fact, Lu Boya didn't have to do this. Our ancestor admired and respected the Lord of Tongtian the most, so it was impossible for him to watch Luo Qingxuan, a lineal descendant of the Lord of Tongtian, suffer. And at that time, Yuanji and I had already made a decision to protect Luo Qingxuan by all means and try our best not to let her be hurt. Unfortunately, we didn't expect that the Lin family's murder would break out so suddenly. Speaking of this, Ao Xintong looked at Lin Sun with a touch of guilt. Fortunately, you survived that disaster, which is a blessing in misfortune. After that, your parents disappeared mysteriously. Lu Boya was worried that he would be targeted by the Permitha Luo family again, so he took you to the mine prison and completely dormant there. Listening to Ao Xintong's story in a low voice, Lin Sun couldn't help but be stunned. His heart was surging and full of waves. P.S. There is a lot of information in today's update. Please take your time to read it. In addition, I will add more tonight. But it may be a little late. I don't ask for monthly votes, but just want to make you happy. Chapter 2344. Since Master Lu hid in the mine prison, Lin Sun had already known what had happened after he grew up there. Similarly, Lin Sun had already known the cause and effect of the tragedy that happened in Heart-Cleansing Peak of Lin family. Now, with Ao Xintong's narration, Lin Sun finally knew what his mother had experienced after she escaped from the other side of the starry sky. She crossed the starry sky with Master Lu and Star Obscura War Emperor. With the help of the ancestor of the true dragon, they got rid of the pursuers. Then they arrived at the Xian family. With the help of the ancestor of the Xian family, they successfully arrived at the lower world where the ultimate ruins were located. In short, the past events told by Ao Xintong were like a complete clue, which connected the past events at once. Lin Sun finally understood why Master Lu directed him to go to Xiao Empire to find his origin when he left the mine prison. And he finally understood why Zhao Yuanji and his wife took care of him in a special way after he arrived at the Forbidden City. At the same time, Lin Sun also found how extraordinary Master Lu was. In primitive times, he escaped from the other side of the starry sky with his mother. In the following years, he played many roles. Formation Emperor Lu in the Taoism War of Ancient Emperors, the owner of the Hidden Mist House in the Dark World, the founder of the Green Deer School and the commune of spiritual tattooists of Xiao Empire, entered the true dragon world and obtained the 9 changes of Calamity Dragon from Minluo Dragon Emperor in the past. Lin Sun couldn't believe that the grumpy old man who brought him up had so many legendary experiences. After a long time, Lin Sun woke up from his contemplation, and he couldn't help but frown as he looked at Ao Shintong, who had a sad and frustrated expression. "Auntie, may I be so bold to ask why the current patriarch of the true dragon clan is your biological elder brother and Jing Xian's biological uncle? But why does he hate me so much?" In fact, he already had the answer in his heart, but he still wanted to ask Ao Shintong's opinion. Ao Shintong's beautiful face changed indeterminately, and she revealed a complicated expression of ridicule, hatred, helplessness, and so on and so forth. "All those years ago, before my father perished, he originally intended to make Ao Huanhai leave with Lu Boya. However, Ao Huanhai severed his relationship with my father in front of the entire clan. Even when my father perished, he stood coldly and indifferently from afar." Lin Sun felt a chill in his heart. Ao Huanhai was treacherous. Ao Shintong took a deep breath and said, "I know why he's doing this. It's because he wants to inherit the position of the clan leader after my father's death. You said that Ao Huanhai is hostile to you. Isn't that very simple? If it was possible, he wouldn't even hesitate to kill this younger sister of his." Brother and sister turned against each other, father and son became enemies. Lin Sun never expected that Ao Huanhai was such a cold-blooded and ruthless character. He thought for a moment and couldn't help but ask, "But why did Ao Huanhai bring Jing Xian to participate in the Myriad Dragon Immortal meeting all those years ago?" Ao Shintong said without hesitation, "I know Ao Huanhai's nature too well. He's doing this because he wants to use Jing Xian as bait to lure me out. The spirit-killing dragon emperor might be behind this." Lin Sun finally understood it thoroughly. "Lin Sun, there is one thing I have to remind you." Ao Shintong hesitated for a moment before saying, "It's very likely that Ao Huanhai views your and Jing Xian's child as his exclusive property. In fact, he might even spare no effort to keep him in the true dragon lineage." After saying this, she was surprised to find that Lin Sun's expression was calm and unemotional. Lin Sun said, "Auntie, I've already guessed this. Anyway, since I'm here this time, I won't let Jing Xian and the child stay in the true dragon lineage." He frowned, however. The spirit-killing dragon emperor controls the source power of the Dragon Palace world, which is not easy to deal with. Ao Shintong said with a strange look in her eyes, "Do you know what your uncle and I are going to do here?" Lin Sun nodded. Ao Shintong said, "Then I might as well tell you that as long as you can rescue our ancestor, the spirit-killing dragon emperor will never control the source order of the Dragon Palace world again." Lin Sun's black eyes suddenly lit up. Zhao Yuanji also smiled. Back then, Minluo Dragon Emperor had personally gone to the ancient path of the starry sky to look for your mother and Lu Boya. He hoped to borrow their hands to break the power suppressing the true dragon primogenitor. The current you is even stronger than your mother and Lu Boya from all those years ago. Furthermore, the blood that flows through your veins belongs to the Skyspan Lord. Ao Shintong nodded with a smile. "I've been worrying about how to rescue our ancestor. In the past decades I've tried many ways to contact our ancestor, but in the end I got nothing." She raised the pearl in her hand that was sprinkling a rain of light. "This pearl was given to me by Lu Boya all those years ago. It can offset the terrifying power of the 49 sea calming Dao steels. If you can think of a way to save my clan's ancestor, then it won't be difficult to save Jing Xian." As she said, she handed the bead in her hand to Lin Sun. Lin Sun held it in his palm and looked at it carefully. He found that the bead was imprinted with a layer of incomparably complicated forbidden power, which was similar to the formation flags and formation plates, emitting a forbidden power fluctuation. Sensing it with his mind, Lin soon could clearly find that the wisps of forbidden power and the cold and weird breath in the dark sea formed a wonderful harmony, just like the rotation of yin and yang. Lin Sun's dark eyes were deep, and he began to deduce the Taoist patterns in the formation bead. The small bead contained so many mysteries and mysteries. Gradually, Lin Sun's mind was immersed in it, unaware of the passage of time. Ao Xintong and Zhao Yuanji looked at each other, and couldn't help but have a trace of expectation. 7 days later, Lin Sun woke up from the deduction. There was unconcealable exhaustion on his face, but more than that, there was joy on his face. This formation bead was definitely the work of Master Lu. It contained 49 Taoist patterns, each of which contained 81 small forbidden power, which intertwined and echoed with each other to form a complete, strict, and complicated forbidden power formation. Its core ability was absolutely not merely capable of assisting cultivators to enter this expanse of the ocean that was 27 kilometers beneath the surface of the sea. An idea occurred to Lin Sun, and he asked, "Auntie, do you know the location of the 49 Dinghai Tao tablets?" Ao Xintong nodded, and then her eyes lit up. "Have you found a way to crack it?" "I'll have to try," said Lin Sun. "Let's go. I'll take you there." Ao Xintong took action without hesitation. After half an hour, under the guidance of Ao Xintong, Lin Sun saw a Dinghai Tao tablet, which stood in the 90,000 meters of seawater. When Lin Sun entered the Dragon Palace for the first time, he also saw the Dinghai Tao tablet, but it was exposed above the sea, which was not worth paying attention to. But from the bottom of the sea, Lin soon found that the Dinghai Tao tablet was covered with countless mysterious and obscure Taoist patterns. Just a glance at them was enough to make one's heart palpitate. If it weren't for the formation bead in Ao Xintong's hand, it would have been impossible to offset the terrible forbidden power released by the Dinghai Tao tablet. According to Lin Sun's estimation, even the ancestor of the emperor would be killed by the terrible forbidden power. For countless years, the ancestor of the true dragon had been suppressed by 49 such Dinghai Tao tablet. It could be imagined how terrible the torture he had suffered was. Lin Sun took a deep breath, abandoned all distractions, and began to focus on the tablet. Ao Xintong was right. The Tao markings and restrictions inscribed on the sea-calming Tao tablet could indeed be described as supreme, and they were unimaginably obscure and profound. After a while, Lin Sun said, "Auntie, leave one of the formation beads to me. You and Uncle should leave here first." He was worried that some changes would occur when he deduced the Taoist patterns, which might affect the safety of Ao Xintong and Zhao Yuanji. Ao Xintong and Zhao Yuanji looked at each other and agreed without hesitation. Soon, they left the place, leaving Lin Sun alone. The ink-black seawater was tumbling, and the Taoist patterns on the tablet were looming, like the mysterious patterns of demons and gods, with the fluctuations of destruction and death. Lin Sun concentrated his mind and body together, running the power of his body and his 5 doppelgangers to meditate and deduce together. 7 days later. He was exhausted both physically and mentally, so he sat down casually and swallowed magic medicines and rare treasures until his physical strength and mind were completely restored. Then he continued to deduce without hesitation. Strictly speaking, it was the first time that Lin Sun had encountered such a terrible supreme restriction since he started his cultivation. The mysteries imprinted on it were as vast and complicated as the sea. Even with his current cultivation, it was extremely difficult for him to deduce. Fortunately, at least he made some progress. 1 month later, Lin Sun successfully deduced half of the mysteries on the Dinghai Tao tablet. During this period, he rested and recovered 3 times, consuming a lot of magic treasures and medicines. 2 months later, Lin Sun had come to a place thousands of meters away from the sea. He had deduced about 80% of the mysteries on the whole Dinghai Tao tablet. During this period, Ao Xintong and Zhao Yuanji also came to visit Lin Sun. Finding that Lin Sun was immersed in the deduction, they left quietly. 3 months later. It's done. Lin Sun woke up from the extreme state of deduction and couldn't help smiling. He had completely understood the mysteries of the sea calming Dao Steel's restrictions. Then, an indescribable tiredness came over Lin's body, which made him almost faint and fall into a deep sleep. He hurriedly took a deep breath, and only now did he notice that his jet-black long hair had actually become white like snow at an unknown time. This was a change that occurred when one's heart and blood were exhausted. Lin Sun didn't take it seriously. He took out some magic medicines and began to swallow them. It was not until a few days later that his physical and mental condition returned to the peak, and his white hair became as black as ink again. Looking at the Dinghai Tao tablet in front of him, Lin Sun finally resisted the urge to break it immediately. He turned around and left to find Ao Xintong and Zhao Yuanji. "Auntie, where are the other Dinghai Tao tablets?" Lin Sun asked as soon as he saw Ao Xintong. Time was so tight that he didn't dare to waste any time. P.S. Send more updates to me. It's very cold now. Keep warm. Good night. Chapter 2345. 3 months had passed. During this period of time, Ao Xintong and Zhao Yuanji had been waiting quietly. They were actually a little nervous, because Lin Sun was their last hope. If even Lin Sun couldn't do it, they were doomed to be unable to rescue the primogenitor of the real dragon from the suppression. When they heard Lin Sun's words, they were both shocked and excited. "Is it feasible?" Ao Xintong couldn't help asking. Lin Sun nodded with a smile. "I can break the restriction on the first Dinghai Tao tablet now. However, I plan to deduce and crack all the mysteries of the Dinghai Tao tablets before taking action." Zhao Yuanji immediately understood. "Yes, that's it. If we act in a hurry now, we will alert the real dragon lineage, and there will be a storm." Ao Xintong couldn't help but let out a long sigh of relief and said with a smile, "As long as we can crack it, it's fine. Come with me." With that, she led the way. This time, she took Lin Sun to walk on the bottom of the sea for 10 days, and they didn't know how many miles they had traveled. The reason was that the 49 Dinghai Tao tablets were scattered in different parts of the sea, and they were extremely far away from each other. Otherwise, the power of the Supreme Prohibition Formation wouldn't have affected the whole area under 90,000 feet in the East Sea, which was regarded as a forbidden area for life. After identifying the location of each Dinghai Tao tablet, Lin Sun immediately devoted himself to deducing and cracking the tablet. With the rich experience accumulated from the first time, Lin Sun was familiar with the process of cracking the second Dinghai Tao tablet. It only took him 2 months to understand all the mysteries of the restriction on it. When cracking the mystery of the third Dinghai Tao tablet, the time Lin Sun spent had been shortened to 1.5 months. When cracking the fourth Dinghai Tao tablet, the time was shortened to 1 month. Not only did his speed improve by leaps and bounds, but Lin Sun's attainments in spiritual tattoos also rose steadily in deduction and cracking, producing significant changes and progress. Starting from cracking the first Dinghai Tao tablet, Lin Sun had cracked the restrictions on 6 Dinghai Tao tablets 9 months later. In the following time, Lin Sun's cracking speed was still increasing, but the extent had begun to decrease. Later, he could crack a Dinghai Tao tablet in 10 days. This was already very shocking. After a year at the bottom of the sea, Lin Sun had deciphered 12 Dinghai Tao tablets. However, there were a total of 49 sea-calming Dao steels. At this rate, it would take at least another 2 years to decipher all the sea-calming Dao steels. This made Lin Sun a little worried. A year had already passed. If another 2 years were to pass, who knew what would happen to the world of the Dragon Palace? Would the trapped Zhao Jingxian encounter any unforeseen events? These were all things that Lin Sun could not predict, but he had to worry about. If you can break through to the next realm, you will be able to increase your speed. At the very least, you will be able to save a lot of time to recover your physical strength and mental strength. In the Endless Tower, she gave advice to Lin Sun. Over the past year, she and Big Yellow, who had been cultivating in the Tower of Endless End, did not lack divine medicines or rare treasures. Their injuries had already recovered greatly. Moreover, she had been observing Lin Sun's actions. He noticed that every 7 days, Lin Sun would have to spend around 2 days to recover due to the great exhaustion of his physical strength and mental strength. If Lin Sun could break through to the next realm, he would have more physical strength and mental strength to decipher the formations. This would save him a lot of time. As expected, after hearing Shi's advice, Lin Sun's eyes lit up and he immediately made a decision. Break through to the next realm first. Over the past year, he had been working on deciphering the Tao rune forbidden formation. His cultivation had been constantly improving while he was recovering. Half a year ago, he already had the foundation to break through to the 3rd level of the Emperor realm. Therefore, it was not difficult for Lin Sun to break through to the next realm. The only thing that was difficult was the tribulation to break through to the 3rd level of the Emperor realm. It was too strange and unpredictable. The path to the Emperor realm consisted of 9 heavenly moats, 3 heavenly barriers, 6 heavenly difficulties, and 9 heavenly tribulations. Now that Lin Sun was about to break through to the 3rd level of the Emperor realm, he had to face the Emperor's heart barrier. Once he broke through this barrier, his body and mind would become a world. For example, if a 3rd level Emperor realm cultivator's body was not completely destroyed after he died, his blood, flesh, and bones would become a world that would continue to exist in this world. Now, Lin Sun knew that the 1st level of the Emperor realm was unyielding, and the 2nd level was formless. The 3rd level of the Emperor realm was called boundless. The Great Way was boundless. At this level, the Emperor's world in one's body and mind would also display a boundless feeling and undergo a brand new transformation. However, the only thing Lin Sun had to consider now was how to break through the Emperor's heart barrier. This tribulation was related to one's state of mind. It was the strangest and most dangerous of all. One careless move and you would lose everything. It was not something that could be broken through with brute force. Lin Sun remained silent for 3 days. He did not do or think about anything. Only when he adjusted his state of mind to a state that was as calm as an ancient well, untouched by dust, unshakable for all eternity, did he stand up. His eyes were emotionless. Only a voice rang in his heart. My heart is unobstructed, this tribulation is nothing to worry about. Boom. Above the East Sea, in the depths of the infinitely high dome, a strange and unpredictable aura of tribulation suddenly gathered outside Zhou, which was undetectable by all living beings in the world. There was no tribulation cloud, tribulation thunder, or earth-shattering vision. It didn't even disturb any living beings. Even Zhao Yuanji and Ao Xintong, who had been waiting under the East Sea, were unaware of all this. But at this time, endless waves were suddenly set off in Lin Sun's state of mind. A strange aura of tribulation turned into a great karma barrier, which suddenly came like a thunderbolt. As soon as it appeared, it produced a terrible destructive power. Lin Sun felt that his consciousness suddenly blurred. In the land of the lake in his heart, countless bizarre pictures emerged. He cried in swaddling clothes when he was a child, and Master Lu roared with grief and indignation and held him tightly in his arms when he was young in the mine prison. He practiced spiritual tattoos all day long, but was scolded by Master Lu again and again in Feiyun village. He met Xia Ji by chance. The scenes of the past years, like pictures in the reincarnation, were so clear and unforgettable. Along with these experiences, Lin Sun's state of mind was filled with joy, sadness, disappointment, and sourness. His emotions were rolling and surging like a tsunami. Later, all the scenes turned into illusory fragments and dissipated. Those relatives, those friends, those good brothers who had fought side by side with him, those old friends he met on the road of Tao, those senior brothers and sisters, they were all gone. It seemed that all the emotional sustenance, intertwining, and fetters in the past life had disappeared without a trace. Zhao Jingxian, Xia Ji, Shi, Silver, Old Toad, Alu, those familiar faces all disappeared in the past memory. In the end, there was only a vast expanse of darkness. Standing alone in the darkness, he couldn't tell the way ahead, nor did he know where the way back was. At the end of the road, there was only a single figure. Looking around, everything was in vain. A thought came to Lin Sun's mind. Was this the end of the great Tao he had been searching for? If so, was all the previous efforts worth it? Worth it? Not worth it? In the lake of his heart, the waves were surging, as if he were asking himself, or being interrogated by the great Tao of heaven. The darkness was like a silent and still cage. In the cage, Lin Sun, who was alone, was silent for a moment. Then he smiled silently and murmured with emotion, "This time, thank you for letting me recall the ups and downs of my past life and remember those familiar people and things. These are all imprinted with traces of my Tao. The past couldn't be pursued, but all the ups and downs he'd experienced in the past, the people and things he'd gotten acquainted with, the love and hate formed from karma, the matters of the world and human relationships that were born from the restraints. All of that had become a part of his path towards the Tao since a long time ago. If there was no cause in the past, how could there be future results? If he regretted and felt lost and made a choice, what was the difference between that and abandoning his own Tao? What was detachment? What was freedom? What was eternity? If everything in the past was regarded as a fetter and cut off, and if the cause and effect of the past were regarded as a cage and broken, what was the pursuit of this Tao? On this Tao, how could it be measured by whether it was worth it or not? Lin Sun was very clear that the situation he was in now was his emperor's heart barrier. One thought might be the difference between life and death. But from the beginning, Lin Sun had made a choice. So, even though his state of mind was tumbling and his mood was like a wild horse out of control, he had only one thought: stick to your heart and keep yourself. All my wishes are worth it. All my wishes are without regret. Whatever I think is in my heart. All my thoughts are my path. Even if the sky falls and the earth cracks, the world becomes nothing, nothing can be changed. Boom. In Lin Sun's state of mind, a bit of heart light emerged, and the cage-like darkness suddenly collapsed at this moment. The cage was broken, and the darkness receded. The sky was full of light, illuminating the road. With his hands behind his back, Lin Sun's chi was boiling, like a beacon of smoke rising to the sky, rising steadily and shaking the whole universe. On this day, Lin Sun broke the Emperor's heart barrier. A bit of heart light shone through the darkness of the world, breaking the threshold of the third level of the Emperor realm and entering the boundless Tao. No attachment to the outside, invisible in the body, and boundless in the heart. The chasm of the third level of the Emperor realm was to cultivate a dustless heart. Reaching this level, his body and mind, as well as his Tao, also had an earth-shaking transformation. Lin Sun was sitting at the bottom of the East Sea. Millions of rays of light and auspicious rain flowed around him, and the Tao Chi was flowing and fluttering like a supreme god. At this moment, he could acutely feel the difference in this transformation. Compared to the breakthrough after breaking through the Emperor's heart barrier when he stepped into the second level of the Emperor realm, it was like a treasure that he had accumulated for a long time, allowing his cultivation to rise to an unprecedented level. Chapter 2346. It took a long time for Lin Sun to adapt to the new realm. He had only one feeling in his heart. After entering the boundless realm, his combat power was more than twice as strong as before. Inside his body, his life imperial realm was vast and boundless, as if it could contain an endless amount of spiritual chi. Every inch of his blood vessels, bones, skin, and internal organs was like a pole that built a vast world. Every breath he took, wind and thunder surged, and all kinds of phenomena came into being. In his mind, his heart was shining brightly, deducing the light and shadow of a world. This world reflected the mystery of his cultivation, which was incomparably wonderful. However big one's heart is, the world is as big as it is. It's not a lie. This was the third level of the Emperor realm. His body and mind could be turned into a world. Even if Lin Sun died now, his body would turn into a substantial world and continue to exist in the world. It took Lin Sun another 3 days to completely stabilize his cultivation. Then, without hesitation, he threw himself into cracking the Dinghai Taoist tablets again. The improvement of his realm even made him a lot faster when cracking the Taoist formation, and he had much more physical strength than before, which saved him a lot of time in the following deciphering. Only the consumption of divine materials and divine medicines didn't decrease but instead increased. The reason was that the improvement of Lin Sun's realm made him consume an astonishing amount of resources to restore his physical strength and mental strength. If he hadn't plundered a large number of cultivation resources over the years and plundered amazing wealth when he broke into the 10,000 Dragon Palace, he wouldn't have been able to bear such consumption at all. Time flew. 1 year passed in a hurry, and 2 years had passed since Lin Sun entered the East Sea. Finally, on this day, Lin Sun woke up from the constant deduction as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. An unprecedented sense of satisfaction and achievement also surged in his heart. In these 2 years of time, all 49 restriction Tao tablets that could be considered to be supreme had been completely comprehended and dealt with by him. It should be known that it was not easy for a Taoist tattoo grandmaster in the world to comprehend a supreme Taoist tattoo formation. In these 2 years, Lin Sun had comprehended 49 supreme Taoist formations and deduced ways to crack them one by one. Through these 2 years of deduction, Lin Sun's attainments in Tao patterns had been constantly improved and had reached a superb level. Now, he could casually set up a forbidden formation that could kill an ordinary Emperor realm expert. If he had enough divine materials and spent some time and effort, he might even be able to set up the complete heavenly death Tao. This was a terrifying grand formation that could kill a Arch ancestor. It was ranked 5th in the heavens and was more than a level stronger than the lifeless killing formation. It's been 2 years. The spirit-killing Dragon Emperor and Ao Huanhai must have forgotten about me. Lin Sun took a deep breath and went to look for Ao Xintong and Zhao Yuanji without hesitation. Along the way, he communicated with Shi Big Yellow and Xia Ji, who were hiding in the Tower of Endless. He learned that Shi and Big Yellow had already recovered from their injuries in the past, so he could not help but feel much more relaxed. In the past 2 years, Xia Ji had been sleeping. For her, sleeping was a kind of cultivation in extreme silence. All of them can be deciphered? Ao Xintong and Zhao Yuanji found it hard to believe when they heard the news from Lin Sun. 2 years. Deciphering 49 supreme forbidden formations created by the Nirvana Luo clan. This was definitely a miraculous speed. Then, is it possible to rescue our ancestor now? Ao Xintong's voice was trembling slightly. When hope arrived, she was a little overwhelmed with excitement. For countless years, the ancestor of the true dragon bloodline had been suppressed in the dark bottom of the sea, suffering countless tortures and blows. Even the powerful true dragon clan did not dare to rescue her, so the East Sea became a forbidden zone for life. No one knew that the ancestor of the true dragon clan had been trapped here like a prisoner. In the past few decades, Ao Xintong had gone through countless attempts, but they all ended in failure. She was already in despair. But now, Lin Sun had used 2 years to bring hope to her. Looking at Ao Xintong's excited and perturbed expression, Lin Sun nodded without hesitation. Suddenly, Ao Xintong seemed to have loosened a tight string in her heart. She felt completely relaxed, and indescribable emotions surged into her heart like a volcanic eruption. She thought of her father who had paid the price with his life, and her brother who had turned against her father. She thought of too many things. Zhao Yuanji could not help but burst into laughter. You're indeed my good son-in-law. Lin Sun's face heated up. Did this mean that he had been appointed? Uncle, aunt, I don't plan to take action for the time being. Lin Sun took a deep breath and stated his plan. Ao Xintong was startled. Why? Lin Sun's eyes were deep. He said frankly, I plan to pay a visit to the 9 imperial clans first, and exchange the 9 transformations of the Calamity Dragon for their real help. He emphasized the word real. Changing the fate of the clan? Sure. But how could he sit back and enjoy the fruits of others' labor? Lin Sun was not a goody two-shoes. If he wanted to obtain the 9 transformations of the Calamity Dragon, he should at least pay a corresponding price. In an instant, Ao Xintong and Zhao Yuanji understood Lin Sun's plan. They also realized that Lin Sun was going to play a big game with the true Dragon Clan this time. Lin Sun looked at Ao Xintong. The latter's expression changed, and she finally sighed. Just do it. I won't stop you. It's time for the true Dragon Clan to be cleansed. In the end, her voice became resolute. Their ancestors were suppressed, but no one dared to rescue them. Minluo Dragon Emperor risked his life to rescue them, but was killed by his own clansmen. Such a true Dragon Clan was no longer the innate spirit clan that shocked the starry sky and was admired by all the clans in the world. Thank you for your understanding, Aunt. Lin Sun was relieved. Both Ao Xintong and Zhao Jingxian had the bloodline of the true dragon. Even Ao Zhentian was the son of Ao Huanhai of the true Dragon Clan. If Lin Sun broke off with the true Dragon Clan completely, he had to care about these people's attitude. In fact, you have completely offended the true Dragon Clan. Everyone can understand your decision. Blood and death are bound to be inevitable in the internal struggle of the clan. Zhao Yuanji said gently, since you have made up your mind, just do it. Your aunt and I will fully support you. Lin Sun nodded. On the same day, he left the sea area 90,000 meters below the East Sea. 2 days later, on the Rainbow Mountain of the holy green Rainbow Island, Lin Sun appeared quietly and found Shui and Zheng at once. Senior, you are still alive? The two couldn't believe it. They looked as if they had seen a ghost in the daytime. 2 years ago, the news that Lin Sun made a mess in the Dragon Palace shocked the world. He killed all the way to the front of the Palace of All Dragons, broke the forbidden formation, and killed 17 emperors of the true Dragon Clan, who wouldn't be frightened by such a bloody and brilliant record. After this battle, the dominating true Dragon Clan suffered a great loss of vitality and its foundation was shaken. How could all the clans in the world not be shocked? In the past, such a shocking thing had never happened before, and Lin Sun's death also made many clans sigh. Even the 9 great imperial clans couldn't help but feel depressed and sad. To suddenly see Lin Sun alive in such a situation, one could imagine how shocked Shui and Zheng were. Lin Sun didn't waste any time and asked to see the clan chief of the Bai and imperial clan. And Shui didn't dare to delay and personally went to report to him. On the same night, the clan chief of the Bai and imperial clan rushed over from several million miles away. When he saw Lin Sun alive, he was pleasantly surprised. Lin Sun chatted with the clan chief of the Bai and imperial clan for a long time. In the end, the Bai and imperial clan sent a message to the clan chiefs of the other 8 clans. The time to change the fate of our clans has come. Everyone, please come to the holy green Rainbow Island to discuss. 1 day later, without anyone noticing, the patriarchs of the Pu Lao, Bing Wu, Swan Ni, Chao Feng, Ba Xia, Qianyo, and Fu Lu had silently rushed over from all directions and gathered on the Jade Rainbow Divine Island. In the beginning, they had a lot of doubts in their hearts. However, when they saw Lin Sun, they were immediately pleasantly surprised. It was as if they had seen the hope of changing the fate of their clans. On this day, Lin Sun and the clan chiefs of the 9 great imperial clans had a conversation that outsiders could not know about. The next morning, Lin soon departed from the holy green Rainbow Island. After seeing him off, the clan chiefs of the 9 great imperial clans looked at one another and had a conversation that lasted for 6 hours. In the end, they chose to believe in Lin Sun. To them, no matter what price they had to pay, they absolutely couldn't miss this opportunity to change the fate of their clans. 90,000 feet beneath the Eastern Sea. After Lin Sun returned, he had a brief conversation with Zhao Yuanji and Ao Xingtong. Then, he immediately took action. On this day, the Eastern Sea was tranquil. It was just like before. However, to the myriad clans of the true dragon realm, this day was destined to be recorded in the annals of history. Boom! 90,000 feet beneath the sea. As soon as Lin Sun took action, the supreme restrictive formation that covered a sea calming Dao tablet instantly fell into a state of stagnation, and the fluctuation it emanated went silent. Ao Xingtong and Zhao Yuanji acutely noticed that the area beneath the Eastern Sea had changed. It lacked the icy cold, strange, and terrifying aura, and it didn't give off the lethal oppressive feeling it had before. Along with Lin Sun's actions, the restrictive formation that covered the sea calming Dao tablets one after another fell into a state of stagnation, and the dangerous fluctuation they emanated successively fell into a state of silence. When Lin Sun had deciphered half of the 49 sea calming Dao tablets, the outside world actually didn't notice the changes that had occurred in the area beneath the Eastern Sea. However, it was also at this moment that a pair of eyes that were as large as a lake suddenly opened in the depths of the extremely dark sea. The eyes were desolate, empty, emotionless, and lifeless. But gradually, a light began to shine from the depths of those hollow eyes. P.S. I'll continue to update tonight. I'm begging for tickets. Chapter 2347. Ao Xingtong seemed to have noticed something the moment the eyes in the darkness opened. His heart trembled, and he suddenly prostrated himself on the ground. He couldn't conceal the excitement in his voice. "First Ancestor, is that you?" After a moment of silence, a hoarse and difficult voice resounded. "What year is it today? And who are you?" Ao Xingtong's nose suddenly turned sour, and he said in a low voice, "First Ancestor, it's been 231,933 years since you were sealed here. I'm Ming Luo's daughter, the grandson of Ancestor Nirvana Wind." Another wave of silence ensued. Suddenly, surging streams of water roiled within the boundless darkness, and it was as if an enormous being was awakening within it. "It's you who removed the seal on the Nirvana Luo clan?" The hoarse voice resounded once more. Ao Xingtong immediately told Lin Sun the whole story. During this process, Lin Sun had been breaking the restriction on the sea calming Dao tablet without any rest. However, he had also sensed that a terrifying aura was awakening in the depths of the extremely dark sea. Without a doubt, it was the first ancestor of the true dragon that had been sealed here for countless years. One day later, outside the world of the Dragon Palace, a wave of horns suddenly resounded from all directions, and it shook the clouds to the point of shattering. Tempestuous waves arose on the surface of the sea, and a terrifying murderous aura swept towards the world of the Dragon Palace like a hurricane. Not long after, tens of thousands of treasured ships, warships, and ferocious beasts surged out from the surface of the sea like a tidal wave. If one were to take a closer look, the vast army was actually divided into 9 camps. They were the experts from the 9 imperial clans, including the Tao Wu, Paleo, Bing Wu, and Tao Wu. The ones leading the armies were all terrifying existences who had stepped into the Emperor realm. They joined forces and charged over menacingly, causing the entire sea to tremble. Just their aura alone was enough to make all the clans in the world despair. "Quick! Send a group of experts to seal off the 7 entrances." An old monster from the true dragon imperial clan roared, causing the heavens and the earth to tremble and the seawater to surge. "Remember, our Paleo clan's mission is to control the entrances to the 7 sea calming Dao tablet. No matter what, we must not let anyone escape from the world of the Dragon Palace. On the other side, an old man from the Paleo Imperial clan ordered with a cold expression and surging killing intent. This time, it's our only chance to change the fate of our clans. I'll surely kill anyone who dares to slack off. Move out. Surround the Dragon Palace world. Numerous loud shouts that were filled with dignity resounded and surged through the heavens and the earth. It was like a thunderstorm was rumbling, and the heavens and the earth fell into a boundless, murderous, and oppressive atmosphere. The experts from the 9 great imperial clans spread out in an orderly manner and rushed toward different sea-calming Dao steels. Every sea-calming Dao steel had a path to the world of the Dragon Palace. This time, the 9 emperor clans were each responsible for sealing 7 entrances, adding up to a total of 49 entrances. It was equivalent to sealing off the entire Dragon Palace. This was the condition that the 9 great imperial clans had offered in exchange for the 9 transformations of the Tribulation Dragon. Near one of the sea-calming Dao steel, a vortex suddenly appeared, and a group of experts from the True Dragon clan walked out from it. When they saw the Taowu imperial clan's army that covered the sky and covered the earth like black clouds, they were all stunned. They did not dare to believe their eyes. What was going on? For countless years, who in the True Dragon realm had dared to come and cause trouble? Come, capture these noble lords of the True Dragon clan one by one. An old man from the Taowu imperial clan let out a cold and hideous laugh. Rumble! The world was turned upside down. A group of experts from the Taowu imperial clan charged out murderously and looked at them with malicious eyes. How dare you? Aren't you afraid of being exterminated? The experts from the True Dragon clan were shocked and furious, and they shouted fiercely. In the past, the True Dragon clan was like the ruler of the heavens, and they controlled all the clans in the world. No one dared to disobey their orders, and no one dared to oppose them. This was especially true for the 9 great imperial clans, who were their most loyal subordinates. If they were ordered to go east, they would definitely not go west. But now, the True Dragon clan had sent an army to invade them. This was simply insane. Exterminate your clan? Do you really think that today will be the same as before? Capture them. The experts from the Taowu imperial clan charged toward the True Dragon clan like ferocious fiends. They did not hold back in their attacks at all. At the same time, they felt extremely delighted and hot-blooded. In the past, they were like servants and subordinate. Ordered around by the True Dragon bloodline, they could only endure and obey. Over the countless years, they had suffered countless looks of disdain, reprimands and curses. Because of that, they had already accumulated endless resentment. And now, this bellyful of resentment had finally found an outlet to vent, and it completely erupted. In a short moment, those experts from the True Dragon clan were suppressed and captured by the Taowu imperial clan. At the same time, the shocking change that had occurred outside the Dragon Palace had alarmed the people from the True Dragon bloodline. In an instant, all sorts of voices of anger and disbelief sounded in succession. The 9 great imperial clans actually dared to join hands and offend us? Who gave them the courage to do so? They're simply tired of living. Quickly, report this to the elders in the clan. Damn it! Why would such a thing happen? Have the 9 great imperial clans gone mad? Without our True Dragon bloodline, how could the 9 great imperial clans possibly have a foothold? This is bad. The paths to the Dragon Palace have been completely sealed off. All sorts of voices resounded. All sorts of news spread through the Dragon Palace at the fastest speed possible. The entire True Dragon clan was alarmed. For countless years, their clan had ruled over the world, and looked down upon it like a ruler. They had never encountered such a shocking change before. It seems like the 9 great imperial clans want to be exterminated. An old man sneered. He did not panic at all. He simply did not place the 9 great imperial clans in his eyes. Are they resentful that our clan has been restraining and controlling them? Why don't those bastards think about who's supporting them to be able to survive until now? Someone said coldly. There's definitely something fishy going on. Go and investigate exactly what's going on. With my understanding of the 9 great imperial clans, if they didn't have something to rely on, they would definitely not dare to do something so foolish as to bring about their own destruction. Someone ordered with a frown. At the same time, the old monsters of the true dragon clan also moved and gathered in the 10,000 Dragon Palace. The 9 great imperial clans had rebelled and led an army to invade the Dragon Palace. This was beyond the imagination of all the experts of the true dragon clan. At the same time, they also realized that if this shocking change continued, the dignity of the true dragon bloodline would be completely destroyed. Those bastards, no matter what the reason is for them to act so recklessly, they must be suppressed and massacred. We must let all the clans in the world know that even the 9 great imperial clans will pay the price of blood if they dare to offend the true dragon bloodline. A hot-tempered old man gnashed his teeth and roared. 2 years ago, Lin Sun had killed his way into the Dragon Palace and greatly damaged the vitality of the true dragon clan. Only 2 years had passed, and the 9 great imperial clans, which had been the most loyal and devoted in the past, had actually committed such a rebellious act. Did they think that the true dragon bloodline was no longer capable? There's no need to panic. The 49 paths leading to the outside world are firmly in our control. Even if they seal and surround the outside world, it's impossible for them to kill their way in. An old monster with a calm and indifferent expression said, I think we should take this opportunity to eliminate the traitors. Traitors! All of a sudden, many of the true dragon lineage's old-timers realized that the so-called traitors were the revered elders of the Dragon Palace. Most of these revered elders were from the 9 great imperial clans. However, before these old monsters of the true dragon bloodline could react, a panicked voice came from afar. Old ancestor, this is bad. Lin Sun has led a group of experts to kill his way into the Dragon Palace. What? The old monsters gathered in the 10,000 Dragon Palace were stunned. They almost thought they had heard wrong. Lin Sun, wasn't he killed by the spirit slaughter old ancestor 2 years ago? What's going on? An old monster shouted with a cold expression. While the world of the Dragon Palace was in turmoil and chaos, Lin Sun had already taken action. Xie Ji, Shi, Big Yellow, Ao Xintong, and Zhao Yuanji followed him. When they stepped into the world of the Dragon Palace again, it was no longer the same as before. The restrictive power of the 49 Sea Calming Dao steels had long been removed, so the path in and out of the Dragon Palace was no longer guarded. Let's go to Ancestor Dragon Mountain. If Jing Xian is still in the world of the Dragon Palace, she must be trapped there. Ao Xintong led the way. She was very familiar with the world of the Dragon Palace. Along the way, some experts were alarmed and berated. How dare you? Who are you? How dare you trespass into the territory of the true dragon clan? Stop right there. These experts were all retainers and guards. Moreover, they were not from the true dragon clan. For Lin Sun and the others, they were not even worthy of their attention. Rumble. Lin Sun and the others did not even pay attention to them. Just the terrifying pressure they released from their bodies suppressed them one by one. As for Lin Sun and the others, they had already torn apart the sky and moved away. They moved as fast as lightning. Along the way, those below the martial emperor realm did not have any chance to resist or react. They were directly crushed by a storm and fell to the ground. Some experts who were watching this scene from afar trembled in fear. There was only one thought left in their minds. Today, the world of the Dragon Palace would undergo a great change. Stop! Suddenly, a thunderous roar resounded. 2 martial emperor old monsters of the true dragon clan moved through the void and stopped in front of Lin Sun and the others. Their bodies emitted a monstrous aura. However, when they saw Lin Sun's appearance, they were stunned as if they had seen a ghost. Wasn't this guy not dead? When they saw Ao Shintong, who was leading the way for Lin Sun, the expressions of the two old monsters of the true dragon clan changed completely. They cried out involuntarily. How come it's you? P.S. Additional updates are sent. Continue asking for tickets. Chapter 2348. Lin Sun's appearance shocked the martial emperors on both sides. Ao Shintong's return shocked them even more, and they were even caught off guard. How could it be her? Ao Yongjin, Ao Feiheng, so you still remember me? Ao Shintong's eyes flashed with undisguised hatred. All those years ago, she'd been entrusted by her father, the Mingluo Dragon Emperor, to leave with Lu Boya. On the way, Ao Yongjin, Ao Feiheng, and all the other experts of the true dragon clan had launched the cruelest pursuit towards her. The hatred from back then erupted in Ao Shintong's heart like a volcano that had been dormant for many years. Oh no, spread the news. Ao Yongjin turned pale with fright. Together with Ao Feiheng, they tried to escape without hesitation. They were not afraid of Ao Shintong, but Lin Sun, Xia Ji, Goldie, and the others. 2 years ago, this group of ruthless people had killed their way to the 10,000 Dragon Palace. If not for Ancestor Spirit Killer, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Furthermore, the news of Lin Sun's group being alive and Ao Shintong's return were too shocking. They realized the severity of the situation. The 9 great imperial clans' offense today was very likely related to Lin Sun and Ao Shintong's group. Why are you running? Didn't you want to eliminate me, a traitor, after you killed my father? Ao Shintong's expression was cold as she attacked without hesitation. She seemed to be filled with hatred. She attacked as if she was risking her life. This was completely out of Lin Sun's expectations. However, Lin Sun immediately experienced Ao Shintong's grief and hatred. When he first entered the Forbidden City's Lin clan's heart-cleansing peak, he was also oppressed by the 4 collateral relatives of the Lin clan. This was the internal strife of the clan. It was so cruel that no mercy could be shown. Zhao Yuanji also made his move when Ao Shintong attacked. However, she was faster than them. Puff, puff. As she wielded the heavenless spear, an unparalleled sharpness swept out. In the distant void, 2 figures were instantly killed, their bodies and souls extinguished. Zhao Yuanji and his wife were stunned. She said calmly, "Time is precious. We can't waste it on them." 2 third-level Emperor Realm cultivators weren't enough for her to look at. "Let's go." Ao Shintong no longer hesitated, and led the group of people straight toward the ancestral Dragon Mountain. Along the way, Lin Sun actually saw many revered elders from the 9 great imperial clans moving out the moment the true Dragon Clan's experts appeared. Like a flood, they submerged those true Dragon Clan's experts. "Fellow Taoist Lin, hurry up! Fellow Taoist Lin, we'll naturally fight alongside you today. Fellow Taoist Lin, you must be careful." All sorts of voice transmissions sounded. Lin Sun had no choice but to admit that the 9 great imperial clans had truly thrown caution to the wind in order to change the fate of their clans. They even dared to go against the true dragon bloodline. A just cause enjoys abundant support, while an unjust cause finds little support. Just by looking at the actions of the 9 great imperial clans, one can tell just how much of a scoundrel those old farts of the true dragon clan have been over the years. Ao Shintong sneered coldly. Soon, the great Tao 10,000 Dragons Palace appeared in his field of vision. After passing this palace, there was the majestic ancestor Dragon Mountain. At this moment, many old monsters of the true dragon clan had gathered in front of the great Tao 10,000 Dragons Palace. The one leading them was Dragon Emperor Ruo Su. 2 years ago, she had used the Heavenless Spear to shatter Dragon Emperor Ruo Su's body and primordial spirit. However, he had not completely erased them. Evidently, Dragon Emperor Ruo Su had already recovered. Damn it! It really is Lin Sun and his group. That little bastard is actually still alive. When Dragon Emperor Ruo Su and the other old monsters saw Lin Sun and his group, their faces were filled with coldness. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. The old ancestor of evil spirit had personally said that the little bastard and his group had died 90,000 feet below the East Sea. But now it seemed that they were still alive. When Dragon Emperor Ruo Su and the other old monsters saw Ao Xingtong beside Lin Sun, their faces were filled with indescribable gloominess and bewilderment. Xingtong, did you bring these enemies here? Don't forget that you're also a member of the true dragon bloodline. An old monster shouted with a sinister tone. Ao Xingtong said coldly, No, I'm the daughter of a traitor in your eyes. I should have died many years ago. However, I'm afraid you didn't expect that I, the daughter of a traitor, would still be able to return alive. Her words were filled with hatred. Bang! Lin Sun moved forward and flicked his sleeve, causing the glow of the Tao that covered the sky to sweep out and charge into the Taolord Heavenfall formation that enveloped the Grand Tao Palace of all dragons. Along with rumbling, this forbidden formation that hadn't obstructed Lin Sun's footsteps since 2 years ago rumbled as it exploded into pieces, collapsed, and vanished at this moment. In an instant, the Grand Tao Palace of all dragons was defenseless. On the other hand, the hearts of Dragon Emperor Ruo Su and the other old monsters went cold when they witnessed this scene. Only now did they suddenly notice that Lin Sun, who they'd called a little bastard in the distance, had actually broken through to become a peak 3rd-level Emperor Realm Martial Emperor in the past 2 years. Kill! From the beginning until the end, Lin Sun didn't waste his breath at all. He'd been lying in ambush for 2 years, and this time, no one could stop him from rescuing Zhao Jingxian. Bang! His figure charged forward explosively. His figure was brilliant like a scorching sun as he soared through the sky, and he withdrew the lifeless seal with a raise of his hand before smashing it forcefully towards the Grand Tao Palace of all dragons in the distance. When looked at from afar, the lifeless seal was like a divine mountain that had descended from the heavens, and it crushed space into pieces as it charged forward with peerless and terrifying destructive force. Open! An old monster at the 7th level of the Emperor Realm howled as he withdrew a divine hammer that glowed brilliantly with golden light and smashed it towards the sky. It was a miraculous ancient Emperor weapon that could shatter stars and crush the universe. But in the blink of an eye, cracking sounds resounded as the divine hammer exploded into pieces. It was like an exploding sun that caused a rain of light to sweep out like a tide. On the other hand, the old monster at the 7th level of the Emperor Realm was directly smashed into pieces by the lifeless seal. His flesh and blood splattered, and he was obliterated amidst a wave of shrill and miserable cries. This was the might of the lifeless seal. When utilized by Lin Sun with the strength of the boundless realm, the might it emanated was unimaginably terrifying. Swoosh! At practically the exact same moment, Xia Ji held the bone spear that glowed brilliantly with starlight as she flickered through the sky. Her black clothes fluttered while she emanated a gloomy and murderous aura. An old monster who was about to launch an attack on Lin Sun was caught off guard and his defense was shattered by Xia Ji's spear. The emperor armor on his body was pierced through and a hole appeared in it. His entire body was pierced through by the spear and lifted up forcefully. Xia Ji's spear shook and retracted. Whoosh! The old monster's body exploded into pieces and blood rained down from the sky like a waterfall. Then, all of it was evaporated by the terrifying Tao light of the spear. He died without leaving any remains. She and Big Yellow also made their move. Both of their auras were even more terrifying. She's figure was like an illusion and interweaved with the orderly light rain. Holding the lifeless spear, he charged towards Dragon Emperor Ruo Su and displayed an unparalleled demeanor. Big Yellow, on the other hand, held the lifeless saber and charged around wildly. He was so domineering that he was unscrupulous and slashed anyone he saw. He was extremely ferocious. In an instant the heavens and the earth shook. Heaven and earth darkened and the sun and moon lost their radiance. The universe was thrown into disorder, and the sturdy ground collapsed and cracked with rumbling sound. The great Tao 10,000 Dragons Palace, that had lost the protection of the fallen Tao formation, was instantly crushed by the terrifying shockwaves from the battle and turned into a wasteland. Rumble! The sound of the Tao surged, divine radiance swept, and the glow of treasures flowed. Moreover, there were all sorts of roars resounding. It was like a battle between the gods during the primeval times had erupted, and it caused the heavens and the earth to collapse and everything to be obliterated. After all, this was a battle between emperors. On the other hand, Ru Shi, Big Yellow, Lin Sun, Xia Ji, and the others weren't ordinary emperors. They charged forward explosively and slaughtered over 10 old monsters from the true dragon clan in a short period of time. Their ferocious, swift, and all-powerful attacks caused the hearts of Zhao Yuanji and Ao Xintong to tremble. It was also at this moment that they finally deeply realized that the young man that needed their protection in the Xiao Empire all those years ago had become a terrifying existence that they couldn't even hope to catch up to. On the other hand, many experts of the true dragon clan in the distance were terrified while their countenances turned ghastly pale. All of their cultivations were below the martial emperor realm, and the strongest amongst them was only at the quasi-emperor realm. So, not to mention participating in this battle, they would instantly lose their lives if they approached the battle. How could such a calamity have occurred? Someone cried out loudly with sorrow. Since the ancient times, the true dragon clan had reigned supreme in this world. They commanded all the clans in the world, and no one dared to disobey them. This caused the true dragon bloodline to be like high and mighty gods, possessing absolute majesty. Even the weakest clansmen dared to look down upon the great figures of the other clans. But now, a great calamity had erupted, and these old monsters that were practically like gods in their hearts were being annihilated. Who would dare to believe this? Before the descendants of the true dragon clan could recover from their shock and grief, a wave of icy cold and explosive shouts resounded. "Everyone, let's capture these little worms together." In the distance, a group of revered elders from the 9 great imperial clans teleported over, and they started to suppress the descendants of the true dragon clan. This caused all of them to feel a crushing sense of despair. In the past, it was they who had oppressed the world and enslaved all the living beings in the world. They were free and unfettered, and no one dared to go against them. But now they were like fish on a chopping board. Rumble! The area around the Grand Tao Myriad Dragon Palace grew more and more turbulent. Blood flowed, thunder rumbled, and it was a scene of violence and chaos. "Quick, go get the ancestor of evil spirit." Dragon Emperor Ruo Su let out a shrill roar that resounded through the heavens and the earth. Puff! However, while his voice was still reverberating, he was ruthlessly nailed to death in the air by a battle spear that was as swift as a destructive lightning. Then, his body instantly turned into endless ashes as if it was incinerated. It was she who attacked. She seemed to be a little unwilling to admit that she failed to kill Dragon Emperor Ruo Su last time. This time, she finally got what she wanted. Clang! At the same time, the formless sword of Great Path, that had been in the hands of Dragon Emperor Ruo Su suddenly wailed, and fell down from the void. Lin Sun, who was fighting in the distance, made a move without hesitation. He used the copper piece left by the Kunlun Refinement Mother Furnace as a guide and grabbed it across the air. Whoosh! The formless sword flickered in the void and fell into Lin Sun's hand. The sword seemed illusory, and it gave off a mysterious and obscure feeling. However, the aura that the sword emitted could be said to be extremely sharp, as if it could destroy the world. Chapter 2349. 2 years ago, Lin Sun had sensed the formless sword in Dragon Emperor Ruoxu's hand. However, he was suddenly attacked by the spirit-killing ancestor and failed to seize the treasure. Now that Dragon Emperor Ruoxu was dead, the sword would belong to Lin Sun in the future. At this point, among the 9 Emperor weapons of Kunlun, only the flawless armor had not been obtained by Lin Sun. Putting away the formless sword, Lin Sun rejoined the battle. In fact, the battle was already coming to an end at this moment, and only a few of those old fellows that were guarding the Grand Dao Myriad Dragon Palace remained, and they were still resisting and struggling bitterly. But at this moment, how dare you all? 2 years ago, I let you escape with your lives. This time, I guarantee that none of you will escape. As soon as the cold and murderous voice sounded, the void suddenly became chaotic. A figure like a supreme ruler tore the sky apart, and a young man's figure appeared. It was the spirit-killing Dragon Emperor, the only ancestor-level figure left in the true Dragon clan. Rumble! The world rumbled and undulated like an ocean. Everyone present felt suffocated as they sensed unprecedented danger, and all of them stopped what they were doing in unison before becoming vigilant and vigilant. Ancestor, you're finally here. This bastard surnamed Lin colluded with the traitor Eo Shintang to destroy our great path's all-dragon palace. Ancestor, please kill these bastards. The few remaining experts of the true dragon clan were overjoyed and excited, and their voices were choked with sobs. The spirit-killing ancestor glanced around, and his face became extremely gloomy. This place was in ruins, suffering from destructive damage. The massive Great Dao 10,000 Dragon Palace had long been turned into a mess. This made the spirit-killing ancestor furious, and his eyes flickered with a terrifying divine light. Xingtang, although you committed an unforgivable crime all those years ago, the blood of a true dragon still flows in your veins. Is this how you repay your clan? His expression was ghastly, and the aura emanating from his body stirred the winds and clouds. He was like a furious god. I only know that ever since you took over the clan, the land of the Dragon Palace has been filled with unscrupulous people who are willing to sacrifice their ancestors just to survive. Eo Shintang's expression was cold, and his eyes were filled with undisguised hatred. And you are the person who killed my father. His voice paused word by word, and it revealed deep enmity and hatred. Childish. If it weren't for me, the true dragon bloodline would have been destroyed by the Lord Ancestor's mistake. If it weren't for me who killed your father back then, the Permi Thaluo clan would have viewed my clan as an enemy. The spirit slaughter ancestor snorted coldly. His face was filled with coldness. Why can't you learn from your elder brother and consider the clan a little more? At this point, he sighed softly. It's useless to say this now. This time, you can go and die together with those bastards. Boom. The evil spirit ancestor waved his sleeve, causing the world to rumble. Boundless power of the laws of order rumbled, and in an instant, the entire area was sealed off. His clothes fluttered in the wind, and he glanced at Lin Sun and the others like a supreme ruler. I've said that I'm the god here. No one can defy me, and those who defy must die. This was a form of absolute confidence. He seemed like the god who controlled life and death, and his eyes, words, and actions were filled with contempt and ruthlessness. In fact, the spirit slaughter ancestor was right. He, who controlled the original order of the Dragon Palace, was almost no different from the god of this world. Lin Sun and the others looked calm without the slightest panic, and they didn't even have the thought or preparation to resist. This surprised the spirit slaughter ancestor. Had these bastards given up resisting? No. Suddenly, the spirit slaughter ancestor frowned and his face darkened. Because he found that Lin Sun and the others looked at him as if they were looking at a fool. Die. He attacked without hesitation. Boom. The unparalleled power of order turned into a landslide and tsunami-like torrent, and it drowned Lin Sun and the others with an extremely terrifying aura. The spirit slaughter ancestor was sure that no one in the world could resist such a destructive blow. But the next moment, his eyeballs almost popped out. He saw that Lin Sun and the others were safe and sound, and the unparalleled power of order suddenly stagnated there, unable to move forward. What was going on? When the spirit slaughter ancestor was about to urge the power again, he was surprised to find that the power of Order of the Dragon Palace dared not approach Lin Sun and the others no matter how hard he tried. It seemed to be afraid of something. The spirit slaughter ancestor was scared, and he immediately felt that something was wrong. At this moment, a hoarse old voice sounded. Jiao, I was most optimistic about you in those days, but you disappointed me very much. Along with the voice, a thin and vague figure appeared in the void, with a strong aura of vicissitudes. The spirit slaughter ancestor cried out involuntarily, as if he was struck by lightning. Ancestor? The weak and vague figure was the true dragon ancestor who had been suppressed by the Dinghai Taoist tablet for countless years. Are you surprised? You didn't expect that I would appear before you alive? The true dragon ancestor's voice was low and emotionless. The spirit slaughter ancestor's heart trembled, and his expression changed dramatically. He finally understood why Lin Sun and Ao Shintong dared to attack the Dragon Palace again. After a while, he suddenly pointed at Lin Sun and Ao Shintong and roared angrily, "How dare you destroy the Dinghai formation left by the Higan Luo clan? You should be cut into pieces." This was absurd. The true dragon ancestor was the ancestor of the spirit slaughter ancestor, but now he was blaming Lin Sun and Ao Shintong for rescuing the true dragon ancestor. Jiao, you disappoint me more and more. The true dragon ancestor let out a long sigh as if he was at a loss. The spirit slaughter ancestor's expression flickered, and he gritted his teeth and said, "Ancestor, I did it to save our clan. You should know better than me how terrifying the Higan Luo clan is. If we had rescued you back then, our clan would have been doomed to be destroyed." The true dragon ancestor fell silent for a moment and said, "I don't blame you for that." The spirit slaughter ancestor seemed to heave a sigh of relief, and his eyes flickered. "Ancestor, if you're thinking about the survival of our clan, then please return to the bottom of the Sea of Sin. Otherwise, the Higan Luo clan will come looking for trouble with us sooner or later. You wouldn't just stand by and watch as your descendants suffer, right?" Lin Sun and the others were stunned. How could this fellow say such shameless words? Ao Shintong's face turned livid with anger. "Enough! Is the Higan Luo clan more important than the life of our clan's ancestor in your heart?" The spirit slaughter ancestor paid no attention to her, and he only looked at the true dragon ancestor and said, "Ancestor, it's not impossible for our clan to escape the Higan Luo clan's control in the future. Just like now, we have a child who possesses the bloodline of the ancestral dragon and the talent of the devouring abyss. As long as he's given the chance to grow, his achievements in the future are bound to surpass all the predecessors of our clan." After a pause, he continued, "At that time, we won't be afraid of the Higan Luo clan with the child in our clan." Hearing this, Lin Sun was so angry that he almost burst out. He snapped, "Old bastard, when did the child become your clan's? Despicable? Shameless? I've seen it today." Big Yellow gritted his teeth in anger. He never thought that the spirit slaughter ancestor would be so despicable. "Jiao, have you finished?" The true dragon ancestor didn't lose his temper, but his voice became lower and lower. "Ancestor, there's only one chance. I hope you can help our clan." The spirit slaughter ancestor took a deep breath and said in a low voice. Lin Sun and the others all looked at the true dragon ancestor. The latter was silent for a moment, and then suddenly emitted a terrifying aura. He fixed his eyes on the spirit slaughter ancestor and said word by word, "You really let me down." The slaughter spirit ancestor was shocked, and then he revealed a frenzied expression. "My lord, if I'm not wrong, then even if you've been rescued and freed, your cultivation has been completely exhausted after being suppressed for countless years. Instead of that, why don't you sacrifice yourself and help the entire clan? You deserve to die." The true dragon ancestor took a step forward, and his figure suddenly straightened up. At this moment there seemed to be a terrifying power awakening in his body. I deserve to die. Isn't it for the whole clan? The spirit slaughter ancestor seemed to feel that something was wrong, and he completely threw caution to the wind. Ancestor, if you continue to be stubborn, don't blame me for suppressing you with my own hands. Lin Sun and the others couldn't help but be stunned. How crazy a person must be to dare to make such a rebellious decision. Haha, Aojioi. You've really opened my eyes. The true dragon ancestor laughed up to the sky, but there was obviously endless sorrow in his laughter. I didn't expect it, I really didn't expect it, you forced me to do this. So long as the clan is able to survive, then so what if I, Aojioi, have to bear the eternal infamy of killing my ancestor? My lord, I'm sorry. Amidst his resolute and insane voice, the spirit slaughter ancestor roared loudly, and then the energy of order that covered the sky converged like tidewater before being controlled by him to charge towards the true dragon ancestor in the distance. You're right, I really don't have much cultivation left. The true dragon ancestor's voice was low. But if I'm able to eliminate a tumor of the clan like you before I die, then it would be worth it. As his voice resounded, his blurry figure gradually condensed into material, and his aura rose and rose explosively. When his voice finished resounding, he was like an overlord that had recovered his dignified aura of the past, and he commanded the world and roared proudly through the world. As he strode forward, the heavens and the earth trembled while a boundless rain of order rained down, and it illuminated his figure to be supreme and lofty like it was at the very beginning of the primeval times. Rumble! The surging energy of order enveloped over, but it hadn't even approached the true dragon ancestor before it was crushed into pieces by the aura emanated by the true dragon ancestor. The spirit slaughter ancestor's expression changed abruptly while his eyes carried a wisp of surprise, bewilderment, and disbelief. The world of the Dragon Palace was formed from my origin Dragon Pearl, yet you, a Geo, are still vainly trying to encroach upon it. Aren't you overestimating your ability? Amidst his dignified voice, the true dragon ancestor stretched out his hand and lightly clenched it in space. P.S. Goldfish is going all out. Those who support me adding more chapters tonight, please buy tickets. Chapter 2350. Boom. Countless rules of order shrouded the ancestor of evil spirit like dancing pythons. The terrifying aura made the ancestor of evil spirit pale. He had been using and controlling the power of order in this world for countless years. How could he not know how terrifying this power was? Break. He flipped his hand and a dazzling Taoist bead appeared. It emitted boundless light and instantly destroyed the killing tribulation that shrouded him. You evil creature! How dare you refine the bead of suppression that I left behind? You deserve to die. The ancestor of evil spirit was furious. He had left the bead of suppression in the Dragon Palace before he was killed. Only the Patriarch could control and borrow it, and he could easily control the power of the origin of the Dragon Palace. However, the ancestor of evil spirit was not the Patriarch. Moreover, he had refined the bead of suppression for himself. Only by controlling this bead can I guarantee that no traitors like Ming Luo will appear in our clan. Sir, I'm doing this for the sake of our clan. The ancestor of evil spirit roared. Rumble. Both of them controlled the power of order and fought fiercely in the void. Heaven and earth were overturned and everything collapsed. The scene was extremely terrifying. Outside the battlefield, Ao Xingtong sent a voice transmission quickly. Lin Sun, go to Zulong Mountain to save Jing Xian first. Your uncle and I will stay here. Lin Sun took a deep breath and nodded in agreement. Big Yellow, you stay here. Big Yellow was stunned. He seemed to be dissatisfied that Lin Sun did not bring him along. However, he nodded and agreed in the end. Lin Sun immediately rushed in the direction of Zulong Mountain with Shi and Xie. The words of the ancestor of evil spirit made Lin Sun conclude that Jing Xian and the child in her womb were still in the Dragon Palace, and it was very likely that they were in Zulong Mountain. Zulong Mountain. Ao Huanhai frowned as he stood by the dragon pool. He had also received news that Lin Sun and his group, who should have died 2 years ago, had once again killed their way into the Dragon Palace. This caused him to be extremely surprised, but it was not to the point of being panicked. However, at this moment, he clearly sensed that the power of order in the Dragon Palace was violently colliding. All of a sudden, his expression changed completely. What was going on? If I'm not wrong, the true dragon primogenitor that was suppressed in the Sea of Sin has already escaped and is fighting Ao Jui. The purple-clothed woman, Yen Xing, suddenly spoke, her eyes flickering with a cold light. Ao Huanhai's body tensed up, and he cried out involuntarily. "That's impossible!" "Why not?" Star Yen said coldly. 2 years ago, I reminded you that Lin Sun wouldn't die so easily, but you and Ao Jui didn't believe me. Ao Huanhai's expression shook, and his expression changed indeterminately. He said resolutely after a short while, "Heng Yu, we can't wait any longer. Make a move right now and swallow this golden dragon cocoon into your body." In the dragon pool, the golden cocoon emitted a mysterious and gentle light of the way. It seemed to have a life of its own as it breathed rhythmically. Hearing this, Ao Hengyu was stunned. Now? According to the plan, in less than 3 months, the dragon cocoon would successfully transform. If they were to act now and something went wrong, quick! Ao Huanhai roared, and his expression became ferocious. The situation had completely changed, and he had to make a decision immediately. However, when Ao Hengyu was about to act, Star Yen suddenly snorted. "How can a waste like you touch such a divine treasure? Get out!" Boom! She waved her hand. With a wave of her hand, Ao Hengyu was sent flying and smashed into a steep rock wall several thousand meters away, fainting on the spot. "What do you mean?" Ao Huanhai was shocked and roared angrily. Star Yen looked indifferent and said coldly, "That child hasn't really been born in the world. How can he be destroyed?" "It has nothing to do with you." Ao Huanhai's face was livid. "Don't you want the ancestral dragon blood? From now on, it has something to do with me." Star Yen said slowly, "I might as well tell you that from the beginning, I planned to take this child away. After all, what he awakened is the talent of my Luo family. In addition, I also need the ancestral dragon blood. If you dare not give it to me, I will kill you." His words were calm, but the coldness in his words made people shudder. Ao Huanhai was so angry that he laughed. "Aren't you worried that you won't be able to leave alive?" Star Yan's eyes were playful and filled with disdain. "Ao Jui, who controls the origin of order in this world, can't even protect himself. Do you think I still need to be afraid?" Ao Huanhai's heart went cold. He had been planning this for decades, and it was finally about to be ripe. Could it be that he was going to be plucked like this? Swoosh! Star Yen suddenly rushed up, her purple hair fluttering in the wind. What was even faster than her was the bronze spear in her hand. It tore through the sky and rushed toward Ao Huanhai. If it were an ordinary person, they would never dare believe that Star Yen would be so decisive and swift. However, Ao Huanhai was no ordinary person. He was the patriarch of the true dragon clan, an existence that was like a ruler in the true dragon world. Faced with this fatal attack, he didn't block it at all. He directly rushed toward the golden dragon cocoon in the dragon pool. Bang! The bronze spear stabbed onto his back, and a muffled explosion resounded as the clothes on his back exploded into pieces. However, the spear was blocked by a layer of green armor, and it was unable to pierce through his body. Star Yan's pupils constricted. Before she could attack again, Ao Huanhai had already arrived before the golden dragon cocoon, and he pressed a hand onto it as he shouted loudly, "If you dare attack again, then I'll destroy it." As he spoke, a trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth, and his countenance was ghastly pale. Even though he'd used the armor to protect his life earlier, The might of Star Yan's attack was too terrifying, and merely the force of the collision had injured him. Star Yan's gaze was icy cold, and she didn't dare move rashly for a time. She said, "Put it down, and I guarantee that I won't harm your life." Swoosh. As she spoke, she stretched out her hand and grabbed. Ao Hengyu, who was extremely far away, was directly pulled over by her, and she held him up like a little chick. "Look again. This is your most beloved son, the future hope of your true dragon clan. Aren't you worried that I'll destroy him?" said Star Yin. Ao Huanhai's eyes almost split open from rage, and his eyes were bloodshot as he said, "If you dare do that, then I swear that I'll surely not allow you to leave alive." 2 years ago, Lin Sun had captured many of his sons and daughters alive, and their fate was unknown. Now, only Ao Hengyu remained by his side, and he was being held hostage by Star Yin at this moment. This caused him to have the impulse to go mad. Star Yin spoke with an expressionless face. "Threats are useless. If you want your son to live, then it depends on if you're willing to exchange that dragon cocoon for it." Ao Huanhai was angered to the point he almost gnashed his teeth into pieces, yet he endured it in the end and said, "All right, I promise you. But you have to let Hengyu go first." Star Yin laughed with ridicule. "No, you have to hand over that dragon cocoon first." Ao Huanhai was angered to the point his entire body trembled while his face warped. After a short while, he suddenly roared, "Kill him if you have the balls. I've already lost many children 2 years ago, so what if another one dies now?" Actually, he was even more clearly aware that once he handed over the golden dragon cocoon, then not only would he be unable to save Ao Hengyu, it was very likely that he would lose his life. Star Yin couldn't help but frown when he saw Ao Huanhai being so stubborn and ruthless. Right at this moment, the sound of the air being torn apart resounded from afar, and Lin Sun, Shi, and Xia Zhi's figures had already charged over explosively. "It's you!" Star Yin recognized Shi with a single glance, and killing intent surged in his eyes. All those years ago in the world of darkness, she'd once fought Shi, and that battle could simply be described as tragic. In the end, she was rescued by the second disciple of Mount Innerheart, Zhong Qiu, and she seized the opportunity to escape. After that, Star Yin saw Lin Sun, and his pupils constricted slightly. "Little bastard, we finally meet." His voice revealed a wisp of ruthlessness. When she saw Xia Zhi, she was instantly stunned, and a wisp of jealousy appeared on her beautiful face. She seemed to be unable to control her emotions, and she gritted her teeth and said in a rare moment, "Damn it. The order energy of the Grand Tao of Destiny should have belonged to me, yet it was actually obtained by a little girl like you." Lin Sun frowned and glanced at Star Yin. But in next to no time, his attention was attracted by the golden dragon cocoon at the side of the dragon pool, and he sensed the most familiar aura within the golden dragon cocoon. That was Zhao Jingshuan's aura. "You're Lin Sun? You've come at the right time. Your wife and child are sealed within this dragon cocoon. If you want them to live, then go and kill this woman." Suddenly, Ao Huanhai shouted coldly and pointed at Star Yin, who was not far away. "Otherwise, I'll destroy this dragon cocoon immediately." Previously, he'd used this to threaten Star Yin, and now, he was using this to threaten Lin Sun. Lin Sun's black eyes instantly became as gloomy as ice. He looked at Ao Hengyu, who was held in Star Yan's hand, and he suddenly had an idea. He said, "Senior, I'll leave this woman to you." She nodded with a cold and indifferent expression. "Be careful, don't hurt my child," Ao Huanhai shouted. Unfortunately, she had already made a move and directly ignored his words. Boom! The skyless spear swept out and swept up a monstrous aura of destruction. Its power was so great that it caused the entire Zulong mountain to tremble. "You forced me to do this." Star Yin glanced at Ao Huanhai, and the body of Ao Hengyu, who was held in her hand, directly exploded into a mist of blood. At the same time, the spear on her back clanged and swept out violently. It was suffused with surging chaotic chi, and it fought with she. Boom! The two of them fought in the void with their spears, causing the area to be in chaos, and it seemed as if the world was going to be destroyed. In the dragon pool, Ao Huanhai's mournful cry resounded, "Hung Yu!" He had high hopes for his eldest son, Ao Hung Yu, but now Ao Hung Yu died in front of him. This blow was so heavy that it almost drove him crazy. "Don't mourn too early. Look who these little bastards are," Lin Sun said and waved his sleeve. The second prince, Ao Tianyu, and other princes and princesses of the dragon clan appeared. All of them looked dispirited and listless, and they were firmly imprisoned by Lin Sun's power. When they saw Ao Huanhai not far away, Ao Tianyu and others couldn't help but cry out excitedly. "Father, save me! Father, save us quickly! Father, I don't want to die, I don't want to die!" Those cries made Ao Huanhai's heart twitch as if it was stabbed by a knife. He stared at Lin Sun with scarlet eyes, and his voice was hoarse as if it was squeezed out from his chest. "Let them go. Otherwise, I'll destroy this dragon cocoon immediately. I'm sending you more updates." Genius 1 Second to Remember website. Mobile version. Chapter 2351. Ao Huanhai pressed his palm tightly on the golden dragon cocoon. His eyes were bloodshot and filled with madness. Lin Sun's black eyes were terrifyingly cold. Zhao Jingxian was Ao Huanhai's niece, but obviously, Ao Huanhai didn't think so. He only regarded the golden dragon cocoon and Zhao Jingxian as hostages. First, he forced Lin Sun to deal with Star Destroyer, and now he threatened Lin Sun to hand over his sons and daughters. Lin Sun was silent for a moment and nodded. "Okay, but you must give me the dragon cocoon when you release them." Hearing this, Ao Huanhai grinned grimly. He thought he had caught Lin Sun and said, "Release my children first and I whoosh, whoosh." Before he finished speaking, Lin Sun threw the two dragon princes, which stunned Ao Huanhai. Then he realized something and shouted, "If you dare to use your talent, I will destroy this dragon cocoon at the cost of my life." Lin Sun narrowed his eyes and forcibly suppressed the forbidden passing that he almost released. He couldn't help but be surprised. How did this old thing know about his talent? Before, he really wanted to take advantage of the time of exchanging hostages to use the forbidden passing to suppress Ao Huanhai. But obviously, Ao Huanhai was alert. Lin Sun couldn't help looking up at Star Destroyer, who was fighting with she in the sky. It must be this woman who leaked the news. "Hurry up, release the other children," Ao Huanhai shouted. He became more and more fearless, thinking that he had grasped Lin Sun's weakness. "I have already released 2 people, which is enough to show my sincerity." Before Lin Sun finished, Ao Huanhai snapped, "Don't talk nonsense. I told you to release them. Don't blame me for being rude if you continue to dawdle." He exerted force on the golden dragon cocoon, causing it to tremble. Lin Sun took a deep breath and said, "Okay." He waved his sleeve. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The 3 dragon princes and 2 princesses, who were suppressed on the ground, were swept up and thrown to Ao Huanhai in the distance. But Ao Huanhai didn't release the golden dragon cocoon at the same time. Instead, he looked up to the sky and laughed. "Idiot, do you really think I will let go of this?" Bang! Before he finished speaking, a dragon prince suddenly exploded. His flesh and blood exploded, and his primordial spirit turned into powder. He died on the spot. This scene caused Ao Huanhai's smile to freeze, and he was infuriated to the point his eyes almost split apart as he howled. "You actually dared to play dirty. You didn't give me that dragon cocoon either, did you?" Lin Sun's eyes were cold. "I'll give you one last chance. Give me the dragon cocoon, and I promise you can reunite with your father alive." Ao Huanhai's expression changed indeterminately. How could he possibly lower his head so willingly? But when he saw the fear and pleading in his children's eyes, he couldn't help but hesitate and waver. "Father, please let go of cousin Jingxian. We don't want to die, we don't want to die. A dragon prince knelt on the ground and wailed. Trash. Ao Huanhai's expression was livid. What are you crying for? It's just death. Even ants are greedy for life, not to mention your children. If you still think that Jing Xian is your niece, it's not too late to stop now, Lin Sun said and pointed to the distance. As Lin Sun spoke, he pointed into the distance. Look at the entire Dragon Palace world. It has long fallen into chaos and turmoil. Outside the Dragon Palace world, there is a tight blockade by the 9 great imperial clans. As the patriarch of the true Dragon clan, you have the heart to let these things continue to happen, or would you rather let the whole true dragon bloodline be exterminated for your own selfishness? Every word was like a knife stabbing into Ao Huanhai's heart. His body trembled with anger, and his expression was terrible. Suddenly, he laughed hoarsely. Ha ha, extermination? Impossible. In the past countless years, many ancestors and the most dazzling big shots of the true dragon bloodline have already gone to the Nirvana world to cultivate. Even if the Dragon Palace world is destroyed today, there is no possibility that the true dragon bloodline will be exterminated. Bang! As soon as he finished speaking, a dragon crown prince died. His body exploded into pieces, causing a rain of blood to rain down. He died right before Ao Huanhai's eyes. In an instant, Ao Huanhai was on the verge of going mad, and he roared hysterically. Even if I die, I'll destroy your reunion with that child of yours, and I'll let you taste the feeling of losing your child. As he spoke, he exerted force with his palm. Bang! But in the next moment, a terrifying force surged out from the golden dragon cocoon, and it didn't just disperse Ao Huanhai's palm strike, it even shook Ao Huanhai to the point his figure staggered. Shit! Ao Huanhai's expression changed abruptly. But before he could control the golden dragon cocoon once more, Lin Sun had already released the divine ability of extinction. The heavens and the earth returned to silence. Everything was still, and Ao Huanhai's movements stopped as well. At the same time, Lin Sun and Xia Ji, who'd been accumulating strength and waiting for a long time, charged out explosively. Lin Sun was like a fierce and overbearing god as he pounced towards Ao Huanhai. On the other hand, Xia Ji charged towards the golden dragon cocoon. In an instant, a series of actions were completed. When Ao Huanhai came to his senses, a broken blade had already slashed at him furiously, and the terrifying sharpness of the blade was peerlessly sharp, and it covered his entire body. At this extremely dangerous moment, Ao Huanhai roared, and a round green light screen suddenly emerged in front of him. The light screen flickered with magnificent and mysterious Taoist markings. Bang! In the earth-shattering collision, the green light screen was smashed into pieces, and it turned into a rain of light that scattered all over the sky. On the other hand, Ao Huanhai's entire body was fiercely slashed out, and he smashed hundreds of meters away. Blood sprayed from his mouth and nose, and his whole body twitched. But there wasn't a trace of injury on his body. The lapel on his chest was torn apart, revealing a green armor that emitted a misty Taoist light, and it was incomparably miraculous. Earlier, Ao Huanhai had relied on this armor to block the sudden violent attack of Xia Ji, and thus firmly controlled the golden dragon cocoon. A cold light flashed in Lin Sun's black eyes, and he immediately recognized that it must be the flawless Great Way armor. Swish! Before Ao Huanhai stood up, Lin Sun had rushed over violently, grabbed out with one hand, and forcibly tore off the green flawless Great Way armor. Bang! He kicked out, and Ao Huanhai's body, which was about to get up, fell down again. His chest bones burst and collapsed, and he screamed in pain. Bang! 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 Lin Sun, who had already accumulated a bellyful of hatred and anger, would not be polite. He used both hands and feet to beat Ao Huanhai fiercely. In a moment, all the bones and tendons of Ao Huanhai were broken. His head was red and swollen, and his body was cracked and bleeding. He had suffered a fatal blow. When Lin Sun was about to beat him to death, a figure suddenly appeared out of thin air. "Let me deal with him." It was Ao Shintong. Lin Sun frowned, but he finally held back. No matter what, Ao Shintong and Ao Huanhai were siblings. Ao Shintong was also Zhao Jingshuan's mother, and Lin Sun's future mother-in-law. "Shintong, you came at the right time. Hurry up, kill this little bastard." Ao Huanhai, who was beaten to the point that his consciousness was blurred, still screamed as if he had gone mad. "I'm here to avenge my father," Ao Shintong said coldly. Ao Huanhai raised his blood-stained face with difficulty, and his eyes drifted. "Avenge my father?" After that, his entire body shivered, and he seemed to have realized something. He shouted loudly, "Shintong, listen to me. If I hadn't exercised forbearance all those years ago, it's very likely that I would have been killed just like my father." But Ao Shintong seemed to be too lazy to listen to his explanation. He held a saber and waved it casually. Puff! Ao Huanhai's head was cut off. At the moment of his death, his face was full of astonishment and disbelief. "From the moment you broke off the relationship between father and son, you were no longer my elder brother," Ao Shintong said in a sad voice, holding Ao Huanhai's bloody head. "When their father, Minluo Dragon Emperor, was persecuted by the clan, Ao Huanhai was the first to stand up and accuse Minluo Dragon Emperor of being a traitor. His biological son regarded his father as a traitor. How cruel was this?" After a while, Ao Shintong said in a low voice, "I will sprinkle your ashes in front of my father's grave, so that he can die in peace." Killing her brother with her own hands. Wasn't this the most painful choice for her as well? Lin Sun couldn't help but be stunned when he witnessed this scene. Only now did he realize that Ao Shintong hadn't come here to spare Ao Huanhai's life, and she wanted Ao Huanhai to die at her hands. "Lin Sun." Xia Ji spoke from afar. "Quickly come over here." Lin Sun's heart constricted. He didn't have the time to think any further and flashed over. He noticed that the aura of the golden dragon cocoon was actually weakening bit by bit. The glow that surged into appearance on the surface of the dragon cocoon was dimming as well. Could something have happened to Jing Xian? Lin Sun's heart shook, and he was just about to stretch out his hand to touch the golden dragon cocoon. "Don't move!" A hoarse and difficult voice resounded, and then the figure of the true dragon first ancestor had appeared out of thin air. However, his figure was extremely blurry, and it seemed like it would disperse at any moment. However, the true dragon first ancestor didn't care at all, and he stared at the golden dragon cocoon as soon as he arrived. "The ancestor of spirit slaughter has been suppressed." Zhao Yuanji arrived as well, and he sent a voice transmission to Lin Sun. Lin Sun instantly heaved a sigh of relief, and then he gazed at the true dragon first ancestor, and couldn't help but ask, "Senior, how is Jing Xian? If you trust me, then stand at the side and watch." The true dragon first ancestor was silent for a moment before he spoke these words, and then he suddenly stretched out his hand and stabbed it fiercely towards the golden dragon cocoon. His fingers were golden and covered in dragon scales, and they emanated peerlessly dazzling light of the Tao that caused Lin Sun's expression to change slightly. However, before he could react, the force of his claw had entered the golden dragon cocoon. Bang! In the next moment, the true dragon first ancestor suddenly pulled, and when the golden dragon claw retracted, it had already firmly grasped the blurry figure of a soul. "Let me go. Old worm, are you courting death?" The soul struggled violently and howled. Lin Sun was horrified. How could he have imagined that such a strange scene would actually occur? Obviously, the weakening of the golden dragon cocoon's aura was related to this soul. It's the soul remnant of the previous venerable emperor Nameless. Goldie had arrived as well, and he revealed a shocked expression. This old bastard really didn't die completely. Venerable Emperor Nameless. Lin Sun's heart shook while a chill ran down his spine, and he felt a wave of lingering fear. He didn't have to think at all to realize that the sole remnant of venerable Emperor Nameless obviously intended to corrode and occupy the body of the child in Jing Xian's womb to come back to life. On the other hand, Ao Huanhai had probably never imagined that a shocking change had occurred within the golden dragon cocoon that he firmly controlled earlier. P.S. The goldfish caught a cold by accident. Chapter 23:52. In the sky, she and Star Trader were still fighting. The battle was so fierce that the sky seemed to be broken. But when she sensed the aura of the nameless Supreme Emperor that true dragon ancestor had pulled out, Star Trader's expression changed slightly. Clang! After taking She's attack head-on, Star Trader rushed down recklessly. She waved her spear, not to save the nameless Supreme Emperor, but to kill Summer Solstice. This was extremely abnormal. Moreover, her speed was unbelievably fast. But Lin Sun, who had been on guard for a long time, moved as fast as he could. Swoosh! Without hesitation, he activated the forbidden passing spell again. Endless dazzling mysteries of time spread out. Visibly, Star Destroyer's figure paused in the void for a moment. It was also at this moment. The Empyrean spear in She's hand pierced through the sky like a beam of light, piercing into Star Trader's back with unstoppable momentum. Puff! Blood splattered. Star Trader was in pain. Her purple hair danced wildly, and her beautiful and cold face was filled with anger and unwillingness. She stared at Lin Sun. It really is the forbidden passing spell. I didn't expect that you, who lost your spiritual vein, would obtain a chance to undergo nirvana and awaken the second stage of devouring abyss. As she shouted, her body seemed to burn, releasing endless purple light that pushed back the Empyrean spear in her back. Lin Sun couldn't help but be shocked by this terrifying power. How terrifying was Star Trader's combat strength! She had suffered the forbidden passing spell and had her body pierced by She with all her strength, but she still couldn't be killed. This was too terrifying. Die! Star Trader rushed at Summer Solstice again. Compared to before, there was a hint of madness and determination. It was as if in her heart, the nameless Supreme Emperor's life was far less important than killing Summer Solstice. Get lost! Big Yellow rushed over and slashed out with his Empyrean saber. The snow-white saber light swept out, and its power was enough to make an ancestor tremble. But as Star Trader's spear slashed horizontally, clang! Big Yellow couldn't even use his saber. He was pushed back and grunted. This made Big Yellow's expression change. This woman's strength was terrifying. However, Big Yellow's attack gave She an opportunity to stab out with the heavenless spear. Pooh! The spear pierced through the Star Eater's body again. But Star Destroyer ignored these injuries and threw the spear in his hand. Boom! The void exploded, fiercely torn apart. The power of this strike seemed to be the blood and sweat of the Star Destroyer's entire life. The power it produced was boundlessly terrifying. It gave people the feeling that it was a spear of judgment thrown by the hand of the heavens. Xia Ji didn't dodge because the golden dragon cocoon was right behind her. In the depths of her eyes, a rare flame burned. It was as if the existence of a star scatterer made her feel a fatal threat. They were fated enemies. Lin Sun, who was aware of the danger, had already stood in front of Xia Ji. Obviously, he intended to take the blow for Xia Ji. This made Xia Ji's heart tighten. She wanted to stop him, but it was too late. At this critical moment, a figure suddenly appeared in front of Lin Sun and blocked his way. It was the true dragon primogenitor. Puff! Star Destroyer's spear arrived, but the first to suffer was not the true dragon primogenitor, but the nameless emperor in his hand. The destructive power produced by the spear crushed the venerable nameless remaining wisp of remnant soul, causing it to explode with a loud bang. Then, the true dragon primogenitor let out a muffled groan. His blurry and weak figure was torn apart by the spear, and blood rained down. Lin Sun used the broken blade to block the attack, using all the strength in his body. Clang! The spear and the broken blade collided fiercely, causing the surrounding void to shake violently. Then, the broken blade let out a wail and was sent flying. Everyone was horrified. Star Destroyer's attack was undoubtedly too powerful and terrifying. It crushed the nameless Emperor's remnant soul, pierced through the true dragon primogenitor's body, and even sent Lin Sun's broken blade flying. Buzz! The spear had already arrived. At this distance, Lin Sun couldn't dodge at all. Determination flashed in Lin Sun's eyes, and all the strength in his body was pushed to an unprecedented level. The terrifying power that belonged to great Emperor Ju Tong was completely unleashed. The lifeless seal appeared, giving off a destructive bronze luster. Boom! The spear and the lifeless seal collided, and a force as violent as the Milky Way burst out, shaking Lin Sun so much that he coughed up blood. His body trembled like a sieve, and cracks appeared on his skin. But he forcibly blocked the attack, using all his strength to not take a step back. Because Xia Ji was behind him, and behind Xia Ji was Zhao Jingxian in the golden dragon cocoon and the child in Zhao Jingshuan's belly. He couldn't retreat. Boom! After a stalemate, the lifeless seal was shaken back. Without the obstruction, the spear, shining with unparalleled cold murderous intent, stabbed into Lin Sun's chest. Seeing this scene, everyone's expression changed. But the scene of Lin Sun's chest being cut open didn't happen. A layer of cyan armor appeared in front of Lin Sun, blocking the attack. The Great Wei armor. However, the power of this attack was too terrifying. Under the impact, Lin Sun was directly injured and coughed up blood. In the end, the spear stopped there, its power dissipating, and fell to the ground. This series of movements seemed slow, but in fact, they were extremely fast and dangerous. Damn it! In the distance, Star Trader let out a scream of extreme unwillingness. She had been injured twice and used all her strength to launch this attack, but she still couldn't kill Xia Ji. How could she be willing to accept this? Boom! She charged over with a cold expression. The Empyrean spear struck out with the force of a thunderbolt, completely shattering Star Spill's already heavily injured body. A rain of blood splattered everywhere, but it was evaporated by the terrifying Tao light. Star Trader felt the loss of her life, and the madness and unwillingness on her face faded away, replaced by a touch of disappointment. After countless years of hunting, I still can't get what I want. I really can't accept this. Her voice became lower and lower, and her soul also burned into ashes, dissipating completely. There was a dead silence. Star Trader's death made everyone feel relieved. They couldn't calm down. This woman was too terrifying. Her cultivation was unimaginably terrifying. If not for Xi's presence, she would most likely be the final winner today. The one who died the most tragic death was the nameless Emperor's remnant soul. After being pulled out by the true dragon primogenitor, he lost his life in the end under Star Spread's full-strength attack. He didn't even have time to scream before his soul was destroyed. Whoosh whoosh, Lin Sun panted. He had used the Forbidden Death spell twice in a row, and he had also been seriously injured by Star Trader's attack. But he couldn't care about this. He immediately looked at the golden dragon cocoon. Although the golden dragon cocoon hadn't dimmed, it gave off a lifeless feeling. Even the wondrous rhythm of life was intermittent. At this moment, Zhao Yuanji and his wife, Xi, and Big Yellow walked over. They looked at the golden dragon cocoon in the dragon pool with different expressions. The previous battle could be said to be full of danger and soul-stirring. Fortunately, Ao Huanhai was dead, Star Trader was dead, and the Spirit Slaughter ancestor was suppressed by the true dragon ancestor. The current situation didn't seem too bad. However, the true dragon ancestor was too seriously injured. His body had already shattered and dissipated, leaving only a weak wisp of his soul. It seemed like it would pass away at any time. His voice was hoarse and weak. I can't hold on much longer. Before I die, I can see all of you. This trip was not in vain. Ancestor. Ao Xingtong was sad. It's just death. There's no need to be sad. I've been suppressed for countless years. I'm not far from death. The true dragon ancestor's eyes were clear and indifferent. Xingtang, you have to take good care of the bead of suppression in the future. It was a plain sentence, but the meaning behind it was not simple. Because in the true dragon bloodline, only the patriarch could control the bead of suppression. In other words, the true dragon ancestor regarded Ao Xingtang as the new patriarch. Ao Xingtang looked sad and choked with sobs. I'm afraid I'll let you down. The true dragon ancestor smiled and pointed at Lin Sun. Don't forget, you still have a good son-in-law, and a good grandson in the future. They're enough. He looked at the golden dragon cocoon with gentle and calm eyes. That child can awaken the bloodline of the ancestral dragon. It's really rare and precious. I'm looking forward to. He can become a respected supreme figure like the Sky Master in the future. It's worth it to exchange my life for a chance for this child. In a low and kind voice, his illusory soul turned into a magnificent rain of light. Ancestor! Ao Xingtang cried out in grief. Then, a brilliant bloody light emerged in the world, revealing a sacred, pure, and dazzling primitive aura. Together with the rain of light, it poured into the golden dragon cocoon. Visible to the naked eye, the golden dragon cocoon suddenly shone brightly like a golden sun, as if it had received an incomparable vitality. On the surface of the cocoon, winding dragons appeared, and boundless dragon roars resounded through the world. At this moment, the remaining true dragon overlords in every territory of the Dragon Palace all had a wonderful feeling, as if a supreme power had been awakened, making them feel awe from the depths of their souls. In the end, when the rain of light and bloody light disappeared, the golden dragon cocoon in the dragon pool turned into a magnificent bright red color, emitting a vigorous rhythm of life. Lin Sun's eyes lit up. He immediately noticed that the breath of life of Zhao Jingxian in the dragon cocoon had become extremely vigorous, but Zhao Jingxian showed no sign of waking up from her deep sleep. Even the child in her belly had not been born yet. Ao Xingtang took a deep breath and suppressed the sadness in her heart. She said gently, "Don't worry. This time, Zhao Jingxian should have benefited from the disaster. She has obtained the ancestral blood of our ancestor. When she wakes up, it will be the day of the birth of our child." As a descendant of the true dragon, she knew this the best. Relieved, Lin Sun said, "Auntie, I want to take this dragon cocoon with me when I leave the true dragon world." Ao Xingtang was stunned. After a moment of silence, she finally nodded and said, "Okay." Lin Sun felt more relaxed after getting the answer. He glanced around and saw Xia Ji standing there silently. He couldn't help but feel nervous and walked over at once. "What's wrong?" Lin Sun asked. Xia Ji raised her beautiful eyes and gazed at Lin Sun. "If you encounter any danger in the future, don't stand in front of me, okay?" Chapter 23:53. Xia Ji's clear eyes were full of seriousness and solemnity. Lin Sun's heart was filled with indescribable warmth. He said, "Okay, I promise you." Xia Ji lowered her eyes and said in a low voice, "If you can't do it, I will be very angry." When she faced the fatal threat from the Star Destroyer, it was Lin Sun who stood in front of her and would rather be seriously injured than take a step back. That scene made her very angry. Why did Lin Sun do this at all costs? Didn't he know how important he was to her? She was also angry that she was so useless that she let Lin Sun protect her from danger, but she didn't say these thoughts. Zhao Yuanji looked at Lin Sun and Xia Ji from not far away and sighed inexplicably in his heart. How could he not see the unusual relationship between Lin Sun and Xia Ji? However, it was not appropriate for him to say more about this kind of relationship. He had no choice. In Xiao Empire, he was also a man with 3 palaces and 6 courtyards. Zhao Yuanji looked at Ao Xingtang and reminded him, "Xingtang, the world of Dragon Palace is in chaos now. Our top priority is to stabilize the situation and reorganize the clan as soon as possible." Ao Xingtang nodded and said to Lin Sun, You are seriously injured. Stay here and recuperate. Andy, let Big Yellow go with you, Lin Sun said hurriedly and kicked Big Yellow, who was lying on the ground pretending to be dead. Big Yellow was exasperated. Boy, you are addicted to ordering me around, aren't you? Before Lin Sun said anything, Ao Shintong said with a smile, if you help us, you can choose whatever you want from the spoils of war along the way. My true dragon bloodline may lack many things, but not treasures. The true dragon clan loved to collect treasures. This was something that everyone in the All Heavens knew. Big Yellow's eyes suddenly lit up. He coughed and pretended to be profound. Well, since you are so kind, I will reluctantly go. Everyone couldn't help laughing. With these formation flags, you can reopen the restriction of the Dinghai Tao tablet. In this way, you don't have to worry about the invasion of foreign enemies. With a flip of his hand, Lin Sun took out the 49 formation flags. In addition, Big Yellow, help me send a message to the 9 great imperial clans. Tell them to withdraw their troops now. In a few days, I will personally pay a visit to their clans. I'm the mighty Battle Emperor Shao, but I've become a messenger for you, Big Yellow grumbled, but he still agreed in the end. Ao Xingtong, Zhao Yuanji, and Big Yellow immediately left Zulong Mountain. Before he left, he also took away the true dragon crown princes and princesses who had fainted from the shock of the previous battle. I'll go take a look as well, she said as he turned to leave. Only Lin and Xia Ji were left beside the dragon pool. Lin Sun was seriously injured. Sitting cross-legged on the ground, he took out many magic medicines to heal himself and asked Xia Ji, do you know why the Star Destroyer tried to kill you at all costs? Xia Ji sat on one side, with her fair and slender hands around her knees. She shook her head and said, I don't know. Lin Sun said thoughtfully, earlier, she said that you have the power of the Order of Destiny in your body. I suspect that the reason she wanted to kill you so desperately must have something to do with this power. Did you notice it yourself? Based on the battle prowess the Star Destroyer had displayed, if she had wanted to escape, no one would have been able to stop her. However, she would rather be injured and killed to kill Xia Ji. This was too abnormal. Xia Ji frowned and said, in the past, in the last days, someone once said that there was a layer of mysterious power covering the life source in my body. It was like a shackle, and it was because of this mysterious power that I was able to undergo nirvana amidst extreme destruction and transform on the line between life and death. To me, that mysterious power that is like a shackle is like a treasure vault that can allow my strength to undergo a transformation. Xia Ji paused, then said, now it seems that this is probably because I like to undergo nirvana reincarnation and transform when I cultivate. Lin Sun's pupils contracted when he heard this. His life source was shackled by a layer of mysterious power. Could this be the Order of Destiny that the Star Destroyer mentioned? Who is the person who told you this? He couldn't help asking. Chun Linkong. Xia Ji thought for a long time before she remembered this name. He also said that the world calls him Burning Immortal. Lin Sun was shocked. How could he forget this mysterious legendary figure? Back in the secret land of Burning Immortal in the domain of extinction, he had seen with his own eyes a wisp of the Star Destroyer's will imprint. According to the old toad, the ancestor of the three-legged golden toad was just one of the 108 generals under Chun Linkong's command. Did he say anything else? Lin Sun asked. Xia Ji shook her head. Apart from Lin Sun, she never cared about other people in this world. Lin Sun fell into deep thought. It seemed that the mysterious shackle-like power in Xia Ji's body must have something to do with the Order of Destiny, which was why the Star Destroyer became so crazy. As soon as he thought of the word destiny, Lin Sun's heart was in turmoil. Now that he was at the third level of the Emperor realm, how could he not understand how mysterious and terrifying this word was? The power of life was the most mysterious and obscure. It could bear the weight of the great Tao and promote cultivators to transform again and again. The essence of life was called numerology, and it was also regarded as fate. The so-called fortune-telling was to deduce numerology, survey one's fate, and peep into the life path that belonged to a person. However, this art of fortune-telling was only for ordinary people. In the eyes of cultivators, the power of life was the most obscure and mysterious. Just like the way of heaven, the transformation and breakthrough in the realm that cultivators diligently pursued were, in fact, the transformation and sublimation of their own lives. It was precisely because of this transformation that the lives of cultivators were full of variables. It was almost impossible to deduce the numerology of a cultivator and survey their fate. In short, all changes related to life could be called the way of destiny. In the eyes of cultivators, the great Tao of destiny was the same as the great Tao of time. They were both the most mysterious and unfathomable supreme great Tao in the world. However, the power of the order of destiny was suspected to be sealed in Xia Zhi's body. This was too incredible. Lin Sun himself had mastered a talent related to the great Tao of time. Therefore, he knew too well that if others knew about the mysterious power in Xia Zhi's body, it would definitely cause endless troubles and disturbances. Thinking of this, Lin Sun looked at Xia Zhi and warned her seriously, "From now on, don't tell anyone about this." Xia Zhi nodded. Lin Sun heaved a sigh of relief and began to concentrate on healing his injuries. Meanwhile, Ao Xingtong launched a great purge in the world of Dragon Palace. She, who controlled the Pearl of Suppression, could manipulate and use the source energy of the world of Dragon Palace. Even if her cultivation was not as high as that of the real dragons, she could suppress them one by one with the help of the Pearl of Suppression. Big Yellow rushed out of the world of Dragon Palace. After passing on Lin Sun's words to the 9 imperial clans, he turned around and left, regardless of whether the 9 imperial clans' coalition army would obey his order and withdraw. Soon, Big Yellow waved the formation flag again and activated the restrictive fluctuations of the sea-quelling Tau steel. The passage leading to the world of Dragon Palace was sealed again. Lin Sun ordered us to withdraw. Does this mean that the nest of the real dragons has really been destroyed by him? Outside the world of Dragon Palace, there was an uproar. Countless people were in an uproar. Even the old antiques were shocked. That must be it. Ha! The real dragons will have such a day. Some people were overjoyed and laughed. This is simply unprecedented. Who would have dared to imagine that the true dragon clan that had reigned supreme for countless years and had always stood supreme above all the other races would actually have their nest trampled upon by a human young man? Some people were trembling and breathing rapidly. Sob, sob, sob. Our ancestors in heaven have finally given us the chance to change the fate of our clan. Some people were crying tears of joy. Their voices were choked with sobs and tears fell. Go quickly. Spread the news. More people were excited and joyful, looking forward to a beautiful future. One day later, as the 9 imperial clans' coalition army returned, the news spread quickly. It immediately caused an uproar among all the clans in the world, and set off an unprecedented uproar. The first reaction of all living beings was, "This must be fake." The real dragons were like the overlords of heaven. No one had been able to shake them since ancient times. How could it be broken by the lowliest human cultivator? This was absolutely impossible. However, as more and more news spread, the 10,000 races in the world finally became skeptical. Only later did they dare to accept this fact that was enough to shock both ancient and modern times. Shock, excitement, joy. All kinds of discussions erupted like a volcano in different territories, cities, and clans in the true dragon world. However, although they believed it, no one dared to make waves while the real dragons were in a precarious situation. No one dared to take advantage of the situation and swallow the territory controlled by the real dragons. After all, the real dragons had ruled this world for countless years. In the hearts of all clans, they were like the overlords and inviolable. The reverence for the real dragons had been deeply imprinted in their hearts. This deep-rooted reverence could not be changed in a short period of time. As the discussions continued to spread, Lin Sun's name spread to every corner of the world like the sun at noon. In countless years, the first living being to defeat the true dragon bloodline actually came from the lowliest human race. No matter how unwilling we are to admit it, the status of the human race is destined to change today. Quick, release all the human slaves. Lin Sun is now an overlord. If he wants to avenge the human race, the consequences will be too severe. Some of the ancient clans made their decisions at the first possible moment. Lin Sun. Lin Sun. How fortunate for the human race. There's finally hope. Ha! The heavens have eyes. They've finally brought a turning point for the human race. In some territories where the human race was located, when they heard the news, everyone, regardless of their age or gender, burst into tears. They were so excited that they could not control themselves. The iron rule that the human race had been slaves for the past 100,000 years had finally been broken. Chapter 23:54. The outside world was in an uproar. Lin Sun didn't notice it at all. Beside the dragon pool, he was meditating to heal his wounds. It had been more than 2 years since he entered the true dragon world. He suppressed the Zhen Ho imperial family, crossed the East Sea, obtained the primordial chi water on the Green Rainbow Island, and saw through the mystery of the 9 changes of Calamity Dragon. Then he sneaked into the Dragon Palace, rescued Ao Zhentian from the Forbidden Mountain, learned the inside story of the 10,000 Dragons Immortal Conference, and killed his way into the Great Dragon Palace. At the bottom of the East Sea, he deduced the 49 Sea Calming Dao tablets and broke through the Monarch Heart barrier. At the same time that his cultivation reached the 3rd level of the Emperor realm, his attainments in Dao patterns also improved by leaps and bounds. Now he fought his way into the Dragon Palace again. The tortuous process, the dangerous situation, and the treacherous battle were all thrilling. But fortunately, everything had come to an end. Star Yen was dead, and the remnant soul of the nameless Supreme Emperor had been annihilated. The task entrusted by Zhong Qiu had been successfully completed. Moreover, he had met Zhao Jingxian. For Lin Sun, the baby in Zhao Jingshuan's belly was undoubtedly a great surprise. At the thought that he was going to be a father, Lin Sun felt a rare excitement and some unspeakable uneasiness in his heart. Would the baby be a boy or a girl? Who would its personality be like? Would it be good-looking? This was the state of mind of a new father. Xia Ji sat quietly on one side, occasionally looking at the golden dragon cocoon in the dragon pool, and occasionally at Lin Sun, who was meditating with his eyes closed. Although Lin Sun didn't say anything, Xia Ji was keenly aware that Lin Sun's state of mind had a subtle change after seeing the golden dragon cocoon. Xia Ji didn't understand the emotional change, but she knew that Zhao Jingxian and the baby in her belly had a very important place in Lin Sun's heart. "Do you like children?" Xia Ji suddenly asked in a clear voice. Lin Sun, who was healing his wounds, was stunned, and then he smiled. "I didn't realize it before, but now I do. After having children, my mood is different." Xia Ji thought for a while and said, "Will you abandon me?" Lin Sun was stunned by her words. Inexplicable emotions surged in his heart, and he suddenly realized that he had never considered Xia Ji's feelings. Is she worried that I won't be good to her after I have Jing Xian and a child? Is she asking this now because she's worried that I won't treat her well anymore? An unspeakable guilt surged in Lin Sun's heart. He stared into her eyes seriously and said, "I never thought you would leave my world." Xia Ji nodded and said, "As long as you don't drive me away, I won't leave, not for the rest of my life because," Lin Sun asked, "Why?" Summer Solstice said in a low voice, "If I leave you, my world will be dark. It seems meaningless to live or die." Lin Sun's heart trembled. He suddenly remembered some words that Xia Ji had said when he was young. "My world is very small, so small that it can only accommodate you. Lin Sun, before I met you, my world was filled with darkness. But with you, there was light in my world. Promise me when you encounter danger in the future, don't stand in front of me, okay? Lin Sun's heart was in turmoil. He couldn't help holding Xia Ji tightly in his arms and whispered, I, Lin Sun, swear that I won't let you leave me in this life, even if I die. A brilliant smile that came from the bottom of her heart appeared on Xia Ji's beautiful face that was covered by the brim of her hat. That kind of beautiful, otherworldly, and dreamy beauty was enough to make the world dim in comparison. She was never a simple girl who needed protection. She was even stronger than any other woman in the world. Otherwise, she wouldn't have fought alone in the last day's impasse. All her strength and all her battles were for Lin Sun in front of her. She never bothered to tell him about these things. She never cared about the Tao of heaven and earth, all the things in the mountains and rivers, and all the living beings, because there was only Lin Sun in her world. That was enough. Suddenly, Xia Ji whispered, Lin Sun, I also want a child. Lin Sun, who was holding Xia Ji's delicate body tightly, suddenly stiffened. His face suddenly became very interesting, and his heart was like thousands of troops and horses roaring. What's going on? Lin Sun was a little confused. He couldn't help but lower his head to look at Xia Ji's eyes. He saw that her clear and beautiful eyes were full of seriousness. This gave him another headache. Could it be that Xia Ji was provoked by Jing Xian? Confusion and doubt flashed in Xia Ji's eyes. She said, It's just that I don't know how to have a child. Do I have to find a cocoon like this? Her voice was like the sounds of nature. Coupled with her puzzled expression, she looked very adorable. Lin Sun was immediately amused. He couldn't help but burst into laughter. In the end, he almost couldn't breathe. Only now did he realize that Xia Ji was completely ignorant about the so-called matters between a man and a woman. What's so funny? She walked over from afar. His graceful figure was surrounded by a rain of light. He looked like an immortal or a god, ethereal and illusory. I want a child. I don't know why he is laughing like this, Xia Ji said with a frown. The atmosphere suddenly turned quiet. Xi's expression also turned sluggish. She seemed to be caught off guard. After a while, she couldn't help but look at Lin Sun. She asked in a questioning tone, Why are you talking to her about such a private topic? Aren't you ashamed? Lin Sun smiled bitterly and quickly explained, I really didn't bring it up. Xia Ji had already turned her gaze to Xi. Sister, do you know how to have a child? She had lived for countless years. However, she still felt her face heat up when she heard this question. She stood there in a daze, not knowing how to answer. Of course she knew. However, how could she say it in front of a man like Lin Sun? Lin Sun noticed Xi's distressed state as well, and he rejoiced in his heart. This aloof and mysterious woman that was as cold as snow had never been so distressed before. You think it's funny? She stared at Lin Sun with a frightening gaze. She couldn't answer Xia Ji's question, so she could only change her target and find a scapegoat. Lin Sun immediately felt that something was wrong. He immediately stood up and said, You guys talk. I'll go take a look at Goldie. The moment Lin Sun said that, he fled with a whoosh. Xia Ji's expression became even more confused. Her clear eyes were filled with bewilderment. Is giving birth more mysterious than comprehending the Great Way? Her pretty face became even hotter. She didn't even need to look in the mirror to know that her face was as red as a sunset. However, when she saw Xia Ji's eager gaze, she knew that she had to explain this question to this young girl who was so beautiful that even she felt extremely pressured. Yes, in Xi's eyes, Xia Ji was indeed still a young girl. After thinking for a long time, she stuttered and said, Xia Ji, giving birth is a very private matter. It requires… how should I put it? You know about the fusion of yin and yang, the union of dragons and tigers, right? Xia Ji said, I know, but what does this have to do with giving birth? Could it be that one has to cultivate the great way of yin and yang to give birth? Xi's lips twitched imperceptibly. He felt somewhat confused. This young girl really did not know anything. Following that, she patiently explained all sorts of things to Xia Ji. However, the more Xia Ji listened, the more confused she became. She seemed to think that giving birth was too mysterious and obscure. In the end, she gave up. There was simply no way to explain it. In her heart, she hated Lin Sun to the core. How could this fellow discuss such a private matter with such a pure and clean young girl? He was simply a beast in human clothing. When that Miss Jing Xian wakes up from the dragon cocoon, there is no harm in asking her. She directly kicked the ball out. However, Xia Ji nodded in deep thought. Her eyes lit up. Right? Asked big sister Jing Xian. She is already pregnant. She definitely knows best. Xi's expression turned strange. He asked strangely, "Are you not jealous of that Miss Jing Xian? Or jealous? Or angry?" Xia Ji asked doubtfully, "Jealous? Angry? I will not. Aside from Lin Sun, no one in this world is worthy of my anger. Furthermore, what is jealousy?" She finally understood why Xia Ji could still stay by Lin Sun's side. It was not that she was broad-minded enough to tolerate Lin Sun being with other women. Instead, she simply did not understand. "Big sister Xi, will you be jealous?" Xia Ji asked. She was stunned. Then, she smiled and said calmly, "Which man in this world is worthy of my jealousy? What about Lin Sun?" Xia Ji asked. She did not understand what jealousy was. She just wanted to figure out what jealousy meant through her conversation with Xi. "Him?" She snickered mischievously. She teased. "I watched him grow up from a young age. Do you think I will be jealous of such a little fellow?" Speaking of this, she felt emotional. She had lived for too long and witnessed the growth of Xian Shangchen, the head of the Xian clan, Lu Boya's glory, and Lin Sun's rise. However, it seemed that Lin Sun was the only one who caught his attention. Thinking of the past and the scene of Lin Sun breaking through the barriers in the heaven accessing place, she could not help but be in a trance. Of course, Lin Sun was no longer a little fellow. He was an extremely rare great emperor since ancient times. On the path of cultivation, he had a unique and terrifying potential. In the eyes of the masses, such an existence could already overlook the heavens. He was like a mythical figure. Thinking of this, she met Xia Ji's puzzled gaze and said softly, "You might not understand now, but you will definitely understand in the future. Only people who truly love each other will understand the feeling of jealousy." Xia Ji responded with an "oh." She seemed to understand, but she also seemed to understand nothing. She did not explain further. This kind of thing was destined not to be explained clearly. At the same time, Lin Sun found Goldie. When Goldie saw Lin Sun, he immediately called out happily, "Kid, you only need to ask me now. I will give you a great fortune. P.S. When the goldfish disease is completely cured, I will prepare for an explosive update." Chapter 2355. Big Yellow was very excited. His eyes were full of complacency and satisfaction, like a victorious general returning triumphantly. Lin Sun immediately guessed that this dog must have plundered some good treasures. "Big Yellow, do you remember what my second senior fellow apprentice told you before we set off?" Lin Sun said leisurely. Big Yellow instantly became vigilant and said, "Kid, I've come to give you fortune, yet you're using your master's name to threaten me. Aren't your intentions too sinister? Let me tell you, I won't fall for it." Big Yellow was a little regretful. Why did he take the initiative to offer treasures so enthusiastically? Now he was targeted by Lin Sun. Lin Sun laughed. "Just give me that good fortune. I won't compete with you for other treasures. Of course, if I'm not satisfied with you, I'll definitely have a good talk with my second senior fellow apprentice when I return." Big Yellow was exasperated. "You have no conscience. You're too heartless. Will you give it to me or not?" Lin Sun was not polite at all and looked calm. Big Yellow grinded his teeth and wanted to bite Lin Sun, but in the end, he just sighed and took out a treasure. This was a transparent jade bottle. Strands of pure white sand flowed within the bottle. It projected a grand scene of the starry sky, resplendent starlight. The tiny jade bottle actually seemed to contain an entire starry sky. Pure and turbid star soul sand? Lin Sun was surprised. Big Yellow said proudly, "Yes, it's this treasure. If I can refine it into my life imperial weapon, its power will at least double. Of course, this treasure is also one of the divine materials needed to condense the seedling of the chaotic source tree." It spoke with fervor and assurance as if it was showing off its merits. "If I hadn't turned the Dragon Palace upside down, I'm afraid you wouldn't have been able to collect this thing in your life." Lin Sun put away the jade bottle quietly and said with a smile, "Big Yellow, according to what you said, you must have found a lot of good treasures this time." Big Yellow said vigilantly, "What does it have to do with you? Boy, I've given you the pure and turbid star soul sand. If you're not satisfied, I'll turn against you." Lin Sun let out a long sigh and then cupped his hands with a smile. "When I go back and see my second senior fellow apprentice, I'll thank you in front of him." What kind of words were those? "You're obviously going to sue me." How could De Huang not understand Lin Sun's overtones? He instantly felt annoyed in his heart, and he grimaced for a long time before he suddenly gritted his teeth and tossed out a storage pouch. "Fine, I'll give you these treasures. If you reach out for a yard after being given an inch, I'll really be anxious." As he spoke, his face was filled with pain. Lin Sun opened the storage pouch to have a look, and he couldn't help but gasp. The storage pouch was filled with precious treasures above the emperor rank, and there wasn't a single ordinary treasure. Moreover, there was a great variety of treasures like divine materials, medicinal pills, rare treasures, ores. Its value was completely immeasurable. Did Big Yellow sweep through the true dragon's treasury one by one? How did you get so many treasures? Lin Sun was about to say something, but when he looked up, Big Yellow had disappeared. Obviously, Big Yellow was worried that he would exploit it again. Lin Sun thought in his heart as he put away the storage pouch. "I only lack the ancestral spirit root of the dark parasol divine tree before I can condense the sapling of the chaotic quintessence tree." He'd already gathered the soul origin roots of the four great divine trees, Builder Tree, Kunwu Tree, and Mulberry Tree. He'd already gathered the various divine materials he required like the chaotic life soil, five-color wondrous soil, primordial chi water, and clear muddy starsoul sand. Now, he really only lacked the ancestral spirit root of the dark parasol divine tree. When he thought of the dark parasol divine tree, Lin Sun couldn't help but recall a matter of the past. All those years ago in the ancient Desolation region, the curtains to the Tao Discussion Lantern Festival had once been drawn on Dark Parasol Mountain. It was also there that Lin Sun saw the will brand left behind by Li Xianwei and a strand of energy left behind by the great Tao Lawless Bell. Moreover, he'd comprehended the profundities of the grand Tao left behind by the Star Obliteration Battle Emperor in a steel forest at that time, Star Obliteration Sky Devourer. All those years ago, Yu Lingkong, who controlled the Hall of Longevity, Ji Xingyao, Luo Jia, Zhongli Wuji, Zhuo Quanglan, Lei Qianjun, and so on and so forth had participated in the Tao Discussion Lantern Festival all those years ago. After so many years, Lin Sun couldn't help but sigh with emotion when he recalled the people and events from all those years ago. But he wouldn't forget it. There was a green lantern tree on Dark Parasol Mountain, and there was a psychic king herb that seemed like a dwarf. It claimed to be the one and only spirit root of Dark Parasol Mountain, and it was even called the Master of All Saints. When he left Dark Parasol Mountain all those years ago, it was even thanks to the help of this psychic king herb. Now that he recalled these events of the past, Lin Sun suddenly realized that the Dark Parasol Mountain might be related to the Dark Parasol Divine Tree. If I have the chance in the future, I should make a trip to the ancient desolation region. Lin Sun seemed to be lost in thought. Zhao Yuanji and his wife spent 3 days of time to carry out a complete bloody purge in the world of the Dragon Palace. Practically all the figures that had persecuted and killed the Minluo Dragon Emperor all those years ago had been dealt with by Ao Shintong, whereas those clansmen that were willing to surrender were spared by Ao Shintong, and they were recruited into his loyal subordinates. At this point, the supreme authority of the entire true dragon bloodline was completely controlled by Ao Shintong. Lin Sun wasn't aware of the entire process, but he knew very well that what was left to Ao Shintong to deal with was a terrible mess. If the true dragon bloodline wanted to regain its former status and power, it was destined to be an extremely long process. After all, too many old antiques of the true dragon bloodline had perished this time. The remaining old monsters in the Emperor realm were less than 20% of the original number. This was no longer a great loss of vitality, but a great blow to the foundation of the clan. While Zhao Yuanji and his wife were still busy, Lin Sun left the world of the Dragon Palace alone. Green Rainbow Sacred Island. When Lin Sun appeared, the patriarchs of the 9 great imperial clans were already waiting for him. Their eyes were filled with anticipation. Congratulations, Daoist Lin, for destroying the Dragon Palace and suppressing the true dragon bloodline. Daoist Lin, you can be considered the first person to defeat the true dragon clan since ancient times. Who in this world doesn't know of Daoist Lin's unparalleled talent? As soon as Lin Sun arrived, he received all kinds of congratulatory voices. The patriarchs of the 9 great imperial clans were brimming with enthusiasm, respect, and reverence. Perhaps they were praising him, but their respect and reverence for Lin Sun were genuine. An existence who could destroy the Dragon Palace and suppress the true dragon bloodline was enough for them to admire and respect. Lin Sun said calmly, "Don't worry, I won't break my promise. I can teach you the 9 transformations of the Calamity Dragon." Hearing this, all the patriarchs secretly heaved a sigh of relief, and their smiles became warmer and warmer. However, in the next moment, Lin Sun changed the topic and said, "However, there is one thing I have to remind you." The atmosphere in the hall suddenly became quiet, and the patriarchs of the 9 great imperial clans were surprised. Lin Sun said frankly, "In the future, the 9 great imperial clans don't need to be subordinate to the true dragon bloodline. However, if the 9 great imperial clans dare to take advantage of the internal strife of the true dragon bloodline, don't blame me for being impolite." The patriarchs of the 9 great imperial clans were shocked and looked at each other. They had roughly deduced that after the turmoil and slaughter, the power of the true dragon bloodline had declined to the lowest point. After the massacre, the power of the true dragon bloodline had declined to the lowest point. It was undoubtedly the best time to divide up the territory of the true dragon bloodline. They were even secretly discussing various strategies and were about to take action. However, Lin Sun's words were like a basin of cold water poured over their heads, and they even found it hard to believe. "Taoism Peer Lin, don't tell me you want to take all the benefits for yourself? Without the help of the 9 great imperial clans, I'm afraid the true dragon bloodline wouldn't have been defeated so easily." Someone couldn't help but frown and remind Lin Sun not to be too unsightly. Lin Sun glanced at him and recognized him as the patriarch of the Taowu imperial clan. He couldn't help but laugh. "You're right. Without your help, the true dragon bloodline wouldn't have been defeated so quickly. However, you should know that without me, how could you and the clans behind you have the chance to change the fate of your clans?" The patriarch of the Taowu imperial clan had an ugly look on his face. "Taoism Peer Lin, the territory of the true dragon bloodline covers the entire true dragon world. With only you, I'm afraid you won't be able to handle it." The others also looked at Lin Sun. According to the original agreement, after they helped Lin Sun, they would only get the inheritance of the 9 changes of Calamity Dragon, which didn't include dividing up the power of the true dragon bloodline. But now, the true dragon bloodline was at its weakest. It was like a fat prey that could only be slaughtered at any time. How could the 9 great imperial clans not be tempted? Lin Sun stared at the patriarch of the Taowu imperial clan for a moment and said, "You'd better disappear now." The face of the patriarch of the Taowu imperial clan turned red, and blue veins appeared on his face. He said in a deep voice, "Taoism Peer Lin, what do you mean? Is there anything wrong with what I said before?" "Get lost." Lin Sun's black eyes were cold. He suddenly stood up, and an overwhelming killing intent spread out and hit the patriarch of the Taowu imperial clan fiercely like a storm. The body of the patriarch of the Taowu imperial clan shook, and his expression changed abruptly. He immediately operated his cultivation to resist. "Lin Sun, are you going back on your words?" Boom. Lin Sun slapped the patriarch of the Taowu imperial clan across the air. With his current combat capability, he could kill a cultivator in the 8th level of the Emperor Realm and fight against a cultivator in the 9th level of the Emperor Realm. How could the patriarch of the Taowu imperial clan withstand Lin Sun's attack? With a bang, the patriarch of the Taowu imperial clan was thrown out and fell outside the hall. This scene shocked everyone present to the point their expressions went pale. "Remember, it is I, Lin Sun, who gave you a chance to change the fate of your clans. I don't expect you to be grateful, but if you dare to take an inch and touch something you shouldn't touch, I don't mind going to your clans. Even the true dragon bloodline can't stop me. Can you?" After saying that, Lin Sun put down the jade slip with the inheritance of the 9 changes of Calamity Dragon and left directly. Everyone's expression was uncertain. They were afraid and angry, but in the end, they gave up the idea of dividing up the power of the true dragon bloodline. Even the dominating true dragon bloodline was suppressed by Lin Sun. How could these clans bear Lin Sun's anger? Outside the hall, the patriarch of the Taowu imperial clan struggled to get up. He looked embarrassed and ashamed. He had completely sobered up, and even couldn't bring himself to challenge Lin Sun. "Everyone, let's leave it at that. Lin Sun is more terrible than the true dragon bloodline. Even if the 9 great emperor clans join forces, we can't afford to offend him." Someone sighed as if he had completely accepted his fate. Everyone else felt sad and sorrowful. P.S. Goldfish is on an intravenous drip. Although she can't update because she is sick, she will definitely update more when she recovers. In the next few days, she will get double monthly vote. Goldfish really wants to ask for it. Genius 1 second to remember website. Mobile version. Chapter 2356. It was only after Ao Xingtong stabilized his position as the true Dragon Clan's patriarch that the 9 great imperial clans' patriarchs found out that Lin Sun was actually Ao Xingtong's son-in-law. For a time, they couldn't help but be flabbergasted and gasp without end. It was also from that moment on that the 9 great imperial clans completely gave up on the thought of going against the true dragon's lineage. These were all stories to be told later. Half a month later, the world of the Dragon Palace had returned to its former tranquility. The golden dragon cocoon in the dragon pond still showed no sign of hatching and metamorphosis, but Lin Sun had already planned to leave. Zhao Yuanji and Ao Xintong tried to persuade Lin Sun to stay, but seeing that Lin Sun had made up his mind, they stopped persuading him. "Auntie, if the Permitha Luo clan finds out that the true dragon ancestor has been rescued, they will definitely not let it go. I have completely refined the 49C calming Dao steels. If I encounter any danger in the future, just seal the Dragon Palace world." In a hall, Lin Sun reminded. Ao Xingtong smiled and said, "If the Permitha Luo clan really comes, they won't be able to do anything to us as long as I have the realm's suppression pearl. As for you, have you considered which clan's path you should use to return to the Starry Sky ancient path?" Previously, she had already told Lin Sun that it was impossible to return to the Starry Sky ancient path from the Zhenlong world. However, he could return through the paths controlled by the immortal phoenix, white tiger, and black tortoise. Auntie, please give me some advice. Lin Sun said. I suggest we make a trip to the immortal phoenix bloodline. Ao Xingtong said. The relationship between the immortal phoenix ancestor and the master of Skirich is very close. Over the countless years, many of the descendants of the immortal phoenix bloodline have married the descendants of the Permitha Luo clan. In fact, many of the descendants of the immortal phoenix bloodline were born with the surname Luo. She paused for a moment, then continued, however, ever since your mother, Luo Qingxuan, met with a mishap, the immortal phoenix bloodline severed all ties with the Permitha Luo family. The reason for this is that the immortal phoenix bloodline only recognizes the descendants of the master of Tongtian's bloodline, and not the entire Permitha Luo family. Hearing this, Lin Sun suddenly thought of an old friend. Roga. She was a beautiful woman from the bloodline of the immortal phoenix. Back in the ancient Desolation region, although he and Luo Jia weren't close, they could be considered good friends. According to Ao Xingtong, the Luo family came from the bloodline of immortal phoenix, and their surname was Luo. Maybe they had the same bloodline as Lin Sun. However, if you really want to go to the immortal phoenix bloodline, I suggest that you don't reveal your identity first. Ao Xingtong said. After all, even though they've severed their relationship with the Permitha Luo clan, they didn't lend a helping hand when your mother, Luo Qingxuan, was in trouble all those years ago. If you rashly go there as Luo Qingxuan's son, who knows what sort of trouble you'll cause. Lin Sun nodded. Ao Xingtong said, when you leave, I'll give you a communication talisman from my tribe. Out of respect for the true dragon bloodline, they probably won't refuse you. As for the White Tiger clan and the Black Tortoise clan, there's no need to consider them. For countless years, they have been the most loyal to the Permitha Luo clan. If it weren't for our clan's ancestor, your mother would have been captured by the ancestors of the two clans and handed over to the people from the Luo clan who were after your mother. Lin Sun's pupils narrowed slightly. Only now did he realize that there was such a big difference in the attitude of the four spirit clans towards the Permitha Luo clan. I heard from Goldie that you haven't forged your own natal weapon yet. You can ask the Shengsu Imperial clan for help when you go to the immortal phoenix bloodline. Suddenly, Ao Xingtong said, the Shengsu Imperial clan is recognized as the most outstanding clan in the world in the art of refining weapons. Their ancestor had the title of Emperor of Refining Weapons since the beginning of primitive times. Lin Sun couldn't help but be surprised. The Shengsu Imperial clan. Just from the title, one could tell that this clan was definitely not simple in the art of refining weapons. After chatting for a long time, Lin Sun decided to leave. Before leaving, Ao Xingtong said softly, Jing Xian has obtained the power of the ancestor's bloodline. As long as she completely refines that power, she will be able to emerge from the golden dragon cocoon. In the future, you must treat them and their son well. Lin Sun had already placed the golden dragon cocoon in the Tower of Endless. Upon hearing Ao Xingtong's words, he nodded and agreed without hesitation. Auntie, can you tell when this golden dragon cocoon will hatch? Lin Sun couldn't help asking. Ao Xingtong shook her head. That depends on when Jing Xian and the child in her womb can truly awaken. This kind of thing is impossible to predict. Lin Sun nodded. No matter what, as long as the golden dragon cocoon was with him, he would be the first to know when Jing Xian and the child would awaken. On the same day, Lin Sun placed Xia Ji and Goldie in the Tower of Endless. Under the escort of Zhao Yuanji and Ao Xingtong, he left the world of Dragon Palace alone. Half a month later, according to the map given by Ao Xingtong, Lin Sun found an ancient transmission array in a boundary plane in the East Sea. As the transmission array operated, Lin Sun's figure suddenly disappeared. Immortal Phoenix Nest. It was a vast world shaped like a huge nest, with many folded spaces and boundary secret realms. The ruler of this world was the immortal Phoenix bloodline. In addition, the immortal phoenix nest was like the true dragon world, with many races and creatures. Outside Thousand Waters City. Buzz. The void fluctuated, and Lin Sun's figure appeared out of thin air. After looking around a little, his figure flashed and entered Thousand Waters City. 2 hours later, Lin Sun had found out everything he wanted to know and immediately found a border ship that was about to sail to the Emperor City of 10,000 Fire. After paying the fee and boarding the ship, Lin Sun was like an ordinary passenger and did not encounter any trouble along the way. It was not until he lived in his own courtyard that Lin Sun had time to think about his next move. This border ship would sail to the Emperor City of 10,000 Fire. The ancestral land of the immortal Phoenix bloodline was located in a folded world outside the Emperor City of 10,000 Fire. This folded world was called Phoenix World. If there was no guidance, no one could find the entrance to the Phoenix World. However, the immortal Phoenix bloodline was not as high and mighty as the true Dragon Clan. Most of the time, the descendants of the immortal Phoenix bloodline had been living in the Emperor City of 10,000 Fire. This was a magical city built on a vast sea of fire. The sea of fire bred all kinds of spiritual fires and divine flames. It was said that there were tens of thousands of them. Some of the divine flames were even the first-class innate divine flames in the world, with all kinds of incredible magical effect. The ancestors of the Divine Craftsman clan had been entrenched in the Emperor City of 10,000 Fire for generations. These divine craftsmen, who were proficient in refining weapons after countless years of operation, had already built the Emperor City of 10,000 Fire into a miraculous divine city. Not only was the city large in scale, but it was also covered with all kinds of prohibitions. It was known as the most difficult city to shake in the world. In the immortal Phoenix world, the Emperor City of 10,000 Fire was also worthy of the title of the first city in the world. Every day, it attracted countless cultivators from all over the world. The border ship soon started and rushed to the sky. Lin Sun, who was lost in thought, made a decision. If there was a chance on this trip, he would start to refine his own life emperor weapon. 10 days later, the border ship crossed dozens of folded spaces and hundreds of boundary planes, and finally arrived at the Emperor City of 10,000 Fire. Rumble! Still on the border ship, a thunderous roar came to his face, and the airflow, which was hot enough to incinerate everything in the world, filled the void. Lin Sun looked down and saw a raging sea of fire rushing on the earth, undulating, setting off hundreds of millions of fire waves, and the lava-like flames illuminated the world red. This sea of flames was too large, and it seemed to be boundlessly vast. The sea surged with raging flames while countless divine flames and spirit flames surged into appearance like tidewater, and they flickered with gorgeous and multicolored light. And just above this sea of fire stood a city, like a floating continent. The city was so big that one couldn't see the end of it at a glance. Undoubtedly, this was the Emperor City of 10,000 Fire, the largest city in the immortal Phoenix world, a miraculous place. A burst of exclamation and shock came from the border ship. Like Lin Sun, most of the people on the border ship came to the Emperor City of 10,000 Fire for the first time. Not long after, the border ship slowly landed on an empty land in front of the city, and Lin Sun and other guests walked out. Near the towering city gate, there was a marvelous prohibition, which could resist the invasion of the flames in the sea of fire. Walking in it, not only did it not feel hot, but it gave people a refreshing feeling. Lin Sun saw that the huge bricks used to build the city wall were made of the best divine materials, and were branded with complex Tao patterns. Without operating, they could absorb the essence power in the sea of fire, and temper and consolidate the city's defense power day and night. After countless years, just the sturdiness of the city itself was comparable to a monarch armament. In addition to the restrictive power, it was more than enough to block the attacks of ordinary martial emperors. The means of the divine craftsman imperial clan is very good. Lin Sun's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. He could see that the divine craftsman imperial clan had clearly refined the whole Emperor city of 10,000 fire as a treasure. If someone made trouble in the city, they only needed to control the power of the city to produce a great deterrent. Ordinary Emperor realm figures were doomed to suffer if they were trapped in the city. Soon, Lin Sun retracted his gaze and walked into the city. The streets in the city extended in all directions, and they were all spacious, magnificent, clean, and magnificent. Rows of buildings of various colors were arranged in an endless manner. The streets were bustling with activity, and people from all races could be seen shuttling back and forth. It was very lively. The city was orderly, and the atmosphere was peaceful. Even sages and quasi-emperors were a common sight. However, Emperor realm figures were extremely rare. Along the way, Lin Sun only sensed the aura of a few Emperor realm figures, and they were all hiding in different areas and did not reveal themselves. A huge and magnificent treasure carriage came from the street ahead. The pedestrians along the way took the initiative to make way for it, and everyone looked respectful and even awestruck. This was because the treasure carriage was branded with the totem of the immortal phoenix bloodline. It was an immortal phoenix that was flapping its wings and bathing in magnificent divine flames. When the chariot passed by Lin Sun, a pleasant voice full of surprise suddenly came from it. "You're so lucky, Mr. Lin?"